Hello everybody, how y'all doing today? Hope y'all having a good, safe day out there with all this ice and stuff on the road. Hope everybody's safe and bundled up somewhere and warm. That's the most important part. I'll give a couple of minutes, see if anybody care to join the party. If not, we will go ahead and get started. And of course, tonight is a special night for me tonight, y'all. I'm sharing my testimony and celebrating 17 years of serving the Lord. And we will get into all of that good stuff here in just a minute. Get my charger on just in case. How you doing, Sister Rhonda? Hope you doing good tonight. Y'all out there safe and out there braving this weather. It's been kind of crazy. When I had to go to the store earlier today, get some supplies, boy. But they did an awesome job. Actually, I commend them. They did an awesome job on the main highways, but you know, we stay back in these back roads, so it was kind of treacherous. So I'm just giving it a couple minutes. I'll be right, go grab some more water, and I'll be right back and get started. I need to put the TV down soon. I'm getting ready to do my live. I can hear that in here. Set it down.
Mommy.
Y'all don't forget, use the second light and not the first one.
Who uses the first light? I already got this.
No, I'm about to do my live move. Go.
You can't get rid of me. Dad, listen to this. Listen.
Later.
Now.
All righty. Glad y'all are doing good. Sister Rhonda, you must be a glutton for punishment. You know I'm sharing my testimony tonight, and know you heard it before, but I'm glad you're here. I definitely appreciate it. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Again, on behalf of Lost Sheep Ministry and Brother John, I'd like to welcome you all. I'm Brother John Stewart. On behalf of Riverlake Baptist Church, Lost Sheep Ministry. And I'm here tonight. Normally I would do a lesson. I apologize to anybody who was looking for me last night because I'm supposed to be on vacation this week. and things just worked out where I wasn't able to take my vacation this week, so I had to go to work for yesterday. And with my position that I'm in, and I probably speak on a little bit later, but with the position I'm in, there's not anyone to cover my shift that works there. So if I'm off, then like they just basically can't use the lab for like 2 days. So they basically tried to squeeze 3 days worth of work into 2 days, so it wasn't no fun. And I was there basically the entire day yesterday. So, but anyway, so I apologize if y'all were looking for me last night. And then of course tonight we normally would be having the Lost Sheep Ministry at the church right now, but because of the weather and all the snow and the ice on the ground, and there's a lot of driving, I have to go to Dixon, pick people up, bring them back, and then go back and forth. And there's a lot of driving, and I don't want to take the chance of being on the roads and it get to snowing and even worse than what it is now. So that's why I didn't meet tonight. And instead, I'm coming to you guys tonight. So I thank you all for being here. And like I said, tonight is not going to be a lesson out of the Bible, but I am going to share my testimony. And the reason I do that, I do it once a year. Well, I've only been doing this for right at a year, so, but that's my thing. I said I will do it once a year because over the year, you know, the ministry grow. You have a couple of other people that come in that maybe haven't heard some of my preaching, but actually haven't heard why I do the preaching and why I serve the Lord. So I like to share that story at least once a year. So if there's people that has joined the ministry over the last year or so that have never heard my testimony or understand why I do what I do, they'll know, they'll have that background on why I am, how I am, and why I do what I do. And that's why I wanted to share my testimony tonight. So, and I'm just going to go ahead and say prayer, then I'm going to jump into it. Dear Lord, Heavenly Father, thank you so much for watching over us. Thank you so much for blessing us and guiding us. Thank you for letting me have this good, relaxing day off and got to get a few things done around the house. And but more importantly, now I get to come and share my testimony with these people, whoever watches the video, Lord. And I just pray that you let your Spirit work through me today to touch the hearts of those that may have went through the same struggles that I went through, or maybe going through the same struggles that I went through right now, Lord. And I just pray that from my testimony, from these words, this life you've given me, that they're able to see that no matter what they're going through, no matter how bad it is, no matter how good it is, you're still there, Lord. You're still there in the midst. You're still there with them, and you have something for them to do. You know, that's the one thing I didn't realize at one point in my life. I didn't realize why everything was going on and why things were so bad, Lord. And it was because I didn't see your plan for my life, and I was trying to live my own plan. But now, Lord, I live by your plan. And of course, we're celebrating today. Tomorrow morning will make 17 years since I've given my life to you. And I just thank you so much. And that's why I wanted to celebrate by sharing my testimony here tonight and talk about what I've been doing over these last 17 years and talk about what led up to that faithful night when you called me to preach your word almost 17 years ago, Lord. So I just thank you so much, first of all, for the life, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I thank you for this ministry, putting on my heart 17 years ago to start this ministry. I thank you for all those that have been faithful to this ministry and that have encouraged me through this ministry. And I just thank you for everything you've done for me and everything you put me through and everything you brought me through. And again, I pray that as I go through this testimony tonight, there's some that's out there that may be going through the same thing I have, that this will touch their heart and the seed may be planted and they may have the want to give their life to serving you as I did 17 years ago. So I thank you so much for everything. Thank you for this opportunity to share my testimony, and pray you let your Spirit work on us as we go through this tonight. We love you and thank you for all you've done and given. And to say this prayer in your wonderful Son, Jesus' name, amen. So again, Sister Rhonda, yes, I'm glad I didn't either. I was going to go, and actually I felt bad because I got on the main road and I saw the main roads were still good. So I'm like, I could have went, but the way things worked out, it just didn't work out tonight. So, but we will convene on our next one. So again, I'm just going to jump into this tonight. I'm sharing with y'all my testimony. Some of y'all know it, some of y'all have heard it before, and some haven't. And it's more for the ones that haven't heard my testimony just yet. And I try to always share, especially when I was in the jail, I always like to share my testimony to help people know why I did this. Because a lot of time when people see you, and I've been doing serving the Lord for 17 years now, and a lot of time when people see you heavily involved in the church and preaching and doing things of that nature, having a ministry, they automatically assume, okay, this is something that he's been in his whole life, or this is something that he was, taught to do or raised to do, and things of that nature. And the reason, the uniqueness of my testimony is when the Lord called me, I actually was farthest away from him, and I probably could possibly be had ever been in my life. And he called me when I was the farthest away from him and told me he had something for me to do. So that's why I like to share this, because there might be other people out there that's going through, like I said, going through the same thing, went through the same things I went through, that may not realize the Lord is putting them through those things, and he's calling them because he has a work for them to do. And that's what I want to share with y'all tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into it. Now, last time I did it, my testimony last year, my cousin, who I respect highly, he's a very spiritual guy. He saw it, and he was good. He said, "But man, you didn't talk enough about your childhood, you know." And he said, "You need to put a little bit more." So I put a little bit more in there, but I'm still not going to dwell on it. And the reason why is just because I'm so far removed. It's not that I've forgotten where I've come from or what I went through. It's just that God has been so good to me over these last 17 years. I'm so far removed from that life and what I went through as a child that I honestly don't even think about it all the time. Every time, now and again, like me and my brother, we might get together and kind of giggle over stuff, the little stuff that we went through and things that we did or something when I'm visiting with family. But I'm so far removed. God has done so much for me over these last 17 years, and what he's given me and my wife and the family that we have now, I just don't always think about it, you know. But he told me, he said, "Man, it's significant because there's other people going through the same thing." So I'm gonna try to include a little bit more of my childhood in there. So again, to go ahead and jump into it. Of course, I started off born in Memphis, North Memphis, actually North. Had to be specific on that. All you Memphis people understand why I had to be specific on that. But most people are like, "Oh, Memphis is Memphis." But when you're from Memphis, it's very important which neighborhood you're from. So, of course, I was born in North Memphis. My mom started off with my mom. She had me when she got pregnant with me. She was 14 years old. My mom was 14 years old when she got pregnant with me, and my dad was 15. So the very young parents. I mean, I'm about to be 42, and they're only like 56 right now, 56, 57. So it's kind of weird. I mean, we right there basically in the same little age bracket kind of thing. So, but and I talk about my life, and I'm talking about give y'all some details tonight, but when I look back on it too, like I said, when he told me I started thinking about childhood, it wasn't all bad. I mean, there was a lot of bad there, but I mean, the first really 8 years, beside this other thing that happened, it wasn't really bad because my mom, she was a very beautiful woman. She was a very hard worker, and I think I get a lot of my work ethics from her and my grandmother. And I mean, very hard worker. To show you kind of character she had. When she was, like I said, she had when she was 15, so she was still in school, and she didn't want to drop out of school. So they had this school down in Memphis called Tech School. I think it was kind of like an alternative school almost. And to show you her character, she was so determined not to be a dropout and to finish her education that she actually kept going. She started going to Tech alternative school, and one of her teachers saw her potential and how smart she was, and he offered to babysit me while she was in class. So my mom actually used to take me to school with her. You know, and I think that's why I grew up. I've always loved school. Like, you know, a lot of people, they can't stay in school and they hate school, but I've always loved school. I think this will help me become a chemist because I was always, and I mean, and what I was told, and these are all stories that I was told, of course, later. And my mom said I was such a good kid as far as not I behaved, but it's just like I didn't cry. It was no crying. I didn't go there and I wasn't crying. I wasn't a baby that cried all the time. So the teacher would actually just have me in the class while he was lecturing. So, you know, so I've been in school since I was an infant, you know, and I think that's why I had the love of school that I had. But that's just shows you the character of my mama. Like, she didn't let her having a baby, and she was kind of doing it on her own kind of thing. Of course, single parent and everything. And she had a grandmother, but, you know, there was old school. They were like, well, you had it, you take care of it kind of thing. And that's what she did in order to finish out her diploma. She went to school and she took me to school with her and one of her teachers. Honestly, to this day, I wish I can, she don't remember the teacher's name. I wish I can look up and see if the teacher's even still alive and just thank him for that. But, you know, like I said, so it wasn't all bad. The first 8 years of my life was actually relatively good. I did have another thing that was going on that I'm going to talk about. But, you know what I'm saying? It was relatively good. My mom, she worked hard. She had her own apartment. She had her own place, but around the time when I was 8, that's when it kind of started falling apart a little bit because she started dating different guys. You know, you women, sometimes y'all get into that situation. I'm actually dealing with a young lady now. I'm trying to help her minister to her, and they get in a situation where you just feel like you got to be with somebody, got to have a man in your life, and you kind of take anybody that comes along. And started dating different guys, and eventually around the time I was right toward the end of 7, 8, she started messing with cocaine. She always smoked like marijuana and drank, but then she started kind of messing with cocaine a little bit. And that's when things started to kind of spiral out of control. And within a year or so, she graduated, I guess you would say, from cocaine to smoking crack. And when she did that, that's when it just really went bad. So around, I was about nine and a half when things really started going bad. And at that point, she had got so addicted to it, she couldn't keep a job anymore. Her health was just, deteriorated. She was so beautiful, and I had to sit there and I watched her just kind of melt away. I just watched this drug just take what was once beautiful and strong and smart and intelligent and just had to turn it into nothing, and I think about that. And kind of ruined our relationship. I still love my mom to death to this day, but we don't have that mother-son relationship where we call and talk to each other all the time because, she was kind of always in the streets kind of thing. So, and like I said, it's just as a child, it used to hurt. And I remember always writing these letters to her, just like, Mom, if you love me, you'll stop this kind of thing, and writing her these love letters. And a lot of time I would go, once she really got really bad, there were days where I'd go, 4 or 5 days without seeing her. It wasn't even it wasn't out of the ordinary. They go 5, 6, 7 days without even seeing her. That's how bad she had gotten, really quick, So I dealt with that, and of course, because she couldn't keep a job, we ended up losing our apartment. We moved around house from house for a little while, for about a year and a half, starting about 8 to 9.5, moved around from house to house for a little while, and then finally got to a point where she couldn't even do that. She couldn't keep that because we'll move to a place and stay there for a couple of months, and of course, then she started getting behind on the rent, and within a month or so, we'd stay in place 4 or 5 months, however long, before the landlord finally kicked us out. And we went through that. So we, had several houses all over Memphis that we went to, and we kind of went there, stayed for a few months, and then lost it. So finally, we ended up, our final destination was in my grandmother's house. And it's crazy because I always had, everybody got, the two, I had two different grandmothers. I had my mom's, my dad's mom, which we didn't have a really close relationship. She would watch me every now and again, but I always liked her because she was nice. She just kind of gave me whatever I wanted and always let me do whatever I wanted to do. So I loved her. And then we had my mom's mom, and my mom's mom, she was just mean. She was just old school. She was mean. She didn't take no crap. She believed kids need to be seen and not heard. The old school, the way they was raised, like that's what she was. So we hated going, me and my brother hated going over to her house because she was just so mean, so it wasn't fun. But once my mama, the worst off she forgot, the worst thing got, like I said, we couldn't keep our own places. So we ended up having to move in with her. Now, my dad, I haven't talked about my dad much because he wasn't really in the picture. I knew who my dad was. I knew where to find him. Anytime, honestly, he hung out. He was just a neighborhood hustler. He never, he finished school as well, but he never really went forward doing anything else. Spent most of his time on the corner drinking. If I wanted to go see him, I knew exactly where it was at. We had 2 or 3 corners in our neighborhood, and most guys, they would just convene on the corner. There was some corner stores there. The one he hung out the most was a corner store in Memphis called Johnson's. It's not there no more in North Memphis. And he hung out in front of Johnson's drinking all day. Him and his buddies drinking and smoking weed. So, and some days I'd be on my way to school or on my way home from school, and he'd be out there standing with his buddies, and and it was so weird to show you kind of dynamic we had with him. Like, a parent supposed to, help their kids along and give to their kids. Well, mine used to actually take from me. Like if I was coming home from school and my dad was out on the corner, he'd call me over, and it wasn't like, hey son, come here, let me talk to you, see how you doing. He would call me over to see if I had any money in my pocket. So if ever, like me, and I usually walked with a group of people, or I had this one guy, I called him my cousin, which we are kind of third or fourth cousin, but really just my best friend. If me and him was walking together and he, we saw my dad, I would have to give him my money because my dad would like check my pockets to see if I had any money. If I did, he would take it. That's the kind of the dynamic that we had. So like I said, he was there. I saw him, but he wasn't in my life. He was never really a dad or what a father should be. As a matter of fact, it was a couple of times where he actually was the one that tried to get me to like sell drugs and do things that, I shouldn't be doing. He always tried to get me to smoke marijuana and things that I wasn't doing at the time. So that was kind of my dynamic as far as with the parents, you know. So that was kind of going on. He wasn't really in the life. Like I said, I would see him in now and again, but I mean, he made no effort to spend time with me, to take me anywhere or do it. And if he did take me somewhere, every once in a while he would, it'd be to do stuff that he wanted to do. I remember this one time, I never forget it. He took me out to this car wash, and that's what he was kind of hustling at. So I'm just standing there, I'm a kid, you know, I'm a kid. I'm like, 6, 7. We need something to keep us entertained or something. And I'm standing on the car at this car wash with this group of like these thugs and gang members while he washed cars the whole day, you know. And then he'll wash a car and come over, smoke some weed and drink a beer, and then go back to washing cars. And, you know, so I was miserable and I was whining, complaining the whole day. And he was so upset, and I couldn't understand, like, man, like, I don't want to be here kind of thing, you know. But he was just, like I said, he took me somewhere, but it was where he wanted, where he was at, you know. So that's the dynamic I had with my dad. He was there, but he wasn't there. And again, he was more of a bad influence on my life than a good influence. Love the story I tell you, so you can fully understand his mindset. This is fast forward just a little bit. I remember I was in high school. I got my first job, and I wanted a car because I used to have to catch the bus to get to work, and it was the place we worked was really far away, and so I had to catch the bus to get to work, and it was a long drive, it was a long walk to the bus stop, and like, I would end up, just to get to work, I would walk maybe 3 miles just to catch the bus and then get to work and things of that nature. So I knew that if I got me a car, it'd eliminate a lot of time and it'd give me a lot more time to do things. So I was working to save up me a car, and somehow he got wind of I was working to save up for me a car. So he got wind of it. So one day I had saved up about maybe $400 or $500. I mean, washing dishes for almost minimum wage, while in high school, and I had worked to save about $400 or $500 to buy me a car. I was so excited about it, and I knew if I got 1,000, I can go to an auction. They had an auction over in Arkansas that I can go and get me a car. So I was so excited, I was about to get this car, and somehow my dad got wind of it. So one day he comes over, him and this guy, this guy looked completely shady. He was, now I look back, and he was definitely a drug addict, and they come in and they got this car, a brand beautiful car. I never forget, it was a gray 19, this was around 97. So the car was about a 94. So it was relatively new, especially to a kid in high school. And so he comes, him and this guy, and they got this Buick Skylark, this beautiful Buick Skylark, and they had the keys to it. And my dad like, well, I heard you looking for your car. He said, my buddy here will sell you this car for, he's like, no, he can sell you this car. He like, well, how much, so I was like, well, how much is it? He like, well, how much you got? And I like, well, I got about $300-$400 right now. He said, that'll be enough. I'm like, for real? Like, this brand new car? He's like, yeah, that's all you need. Whatever you got, we'll take it. So I go, I'm excited. They got the keys. I'm not thinking, I'm a young kid. I don't know anything about owning a title and all that kind of stuff. So I got the keys. I'm excited about it. I get the keys to the car, and I knew something was up. He's like, now look, when you get it, just park it in your backyard and don't drive it. We got to work on getting a title in your name, and it's going to take a couple of weeks. So just park it. So, and that worked for like a day or so, but I'm a kid. I had just got my license, recently got my license. I got the keys to a car. I'm not gonna just let this car sit in my backyard. So me and my cousin Chad, man, we get in this car. We riding all over Memphis in this car, man. I'm driving it to school and everything. And I'm in that tall cotton, I'm just living the life. And then, like 2-3 weeks went past, and every time I saw him, I asked him, like, what's up with the title? What's going on? He always, we'll worry about it later on. So finally, I get a look here, like something's going on. So I started kind of searching the car, and I found one little slip of paper from like a cleaner service or something that had the latest name on it. So I get the latest name, and I go and look up her name in the phone book. And I called, and it was a older white lady. I could tell she was maybe 70, 80s. I mean, she was just sounded really old. I don't know exactly how old she was. I never saw her, but she was definitely older. And I talked to her, and I was like, ma'am, I said, do you own a Buick Skylark? She said, I did. And I said, what do you mean did? She said, well, my son stole it, and he's bad on drugs, and he stole it, and I haven't seen it for a few weeks. And when she said that, I knew that the car that my dad sold me, took all the money I had earned, he had sold me a stolen car. And I've been riding, and you gotta understand, I had been riding around all around town. All it took was one time for the police to pull me over, and I would have been in jail with felony charges because my own dad sold me a stolen car. So I told the lady, I never forget, I told her, I said, ma'am, I said, I have your car. I said, we can make some arrangements. I can bring it back to you. And I was going to take it back to her, and my grandma stopped me. She's like, boy, don't you take that car. She's like, she had the police sitting there waiting on you because she don't know that, you're not the one that stole it. And, and at first I was upset. I'm like, I just want to take this lady a car. But, my grandma convinced me that it'd be best to just call the police and have the police come and get it. And that's what happened. And I never forget the officer, that one of the officers, I don't know his name, but I remember he was talking to me, and he came up to me, he shook my hand. He said, young man, he said, hey, look, he said, I see a lot of stuff. He said, you know how bad the city is. He said, especially in your neighborhood, you know how your neighborhood is. He said, and I really kind of lost my faith in the youth and in the city. He said, but man, that act right there that you just did, you just restored my faith in humanity, basically. And he just really shook my hand. He said, man, I pray that, you have a good life and you continue on this path that you're on. He said, because God got something for you down the road. And I didn't think none of it, but I look back on it now like, wow, that was blessed. Because I didn't realize the bigness of what I had done, but I had to make that sacrifice. So that was all my money. It was just gone. All the money. So now I'm back to square 1, 0. But I tell the story so you can have a mindset of the kind of person my dad was. This is the kind of the guy, and still to this day, still the same way. I mean, any way he can do to hustle you out of something or to get something for you, from you, he's going to take it. So, I mean, we never really have, even right now, I'm raising my younger brother, which is my brother on his side. And even with that, I was doing it to help him out. And even with that, we've had some problems because he was trying to find ways to get money out of the situation because of me having my brother. So, I mean, again, insane. So that was my dad. So he never was really a major factor in my life. In fact, other than the fact that he wasn't here. And I used to hate that for the longest. That I never had a dad, never had, dad show up to the school. He was the one that always, pushed me to play football. One good thing he did push me to play football. And when I was like 8 years old, 7, 8 years old, he put me in weightlifting. We had a local gym there called Greenlaw Community Center, and they had a weightlifting program. And I think him and the guy, his name was Big Tony, was friends at some point to play ball together or something. He knew him, and Big Tony was this huge muscular guy, so he put me in Big Tony's weight program, and I started lifting weights when I was 8 years old. So that's why my frame is so huge, because I've been lifting weights. I've been bench pressing like over 100 pounds since I was like 8 years old, so that was the one good thing he did do for me, I guess. But for the most part, man, he was just a negative influence in my life, and I hated that I never had a dad around all this time. But now when I look back on it, I look at my life probably would have been way worse had he been in my life. Seeing how he is now, seeing the things I had to deal with and I've had to overcome with raising my younger brother, having adopted my younger brother, and the things we've had to overcome with him, I look back on it now is like, man, it's probably a good thing that he wasn't in my life, because I probably wouldn't be where I am today. So again, that was my dad, and that was my mom. Like I said, my mom, she started off good, but the drugs kind of took her down and melted her down to nothing, basically, from the great, wonderful person that she was. She was, like I said in the beginning, great, wonderful mom. Loved her to death, but the drugs, once that drug got a hold to her, she become a slave to it. I've talked about that before. The world talks about, don't become a slave to anything. Anybody that's addicted to drugs or alcohol or pills or whatever, they become a slave to that. And I've watched that process happen as a child. So back to where I was at. So, young guy, about 7, 8 years old. Like I said, we ended up having to move back to North Memphis with my grandmother that I did not like at the time. She was so mean, man. She was such a mean lady. And and the main reason I didn't like it, she made us go to church all the time. That's the funny part. She always made us go to church. Like every Sunday, that was one rule in my grandma's house. She don't care if you were staying in her house. She didn't care what time you got in. She didn't care what you did the night before. Sunday morning, you better be up and ready for church. So we moved there. And a little bit after we moved there, and of course, North Memphis, if you're not familiar with Memphis, now it's not as bad as it was. Actually, matter of fact, it's pretty nice over there where I grew up now. But when we moved over there, it was one of the worst parts of Memphis, because Memphis, Memphis is a bad place, but it was one of the worst parts. And I stayed a block away from one of the worst projects in Memphis, which was called Hurst Village. I literally stayed a block away from it. And honestly, I spent most of my time in Hurst Village because all of my friends from school was in Hurst Village, and the majority of my family lived in Hurst Village. So that's where I spent. I'm not from Hurst Village. I'm not from the project. We actually had a house, but that's where I spent the majority of my childhood childhood, hanging out with my friends in Hurt Village and trying to dodge the bullies over there as well. So we moved back here with my grandmother, and my mom, she's bad. She's getting worse and worse on drugs. Now at this point, not only could she not hold a job down to keep us anywhere stable, she's getting food stamps, she's getting welfare. But whenever she got the food, the money, when it first came around, 9 times out of 10, she had to go take it to the dope boys, because they would just give her drugs on credit, so to speak, because she like, oh, my check will be here, my check will be here. So so she would go. So soon the welfare checks came in, she went and spent the 95% on drugs, either paying off the credit that she's already had and buying new drugs. Like, we never saw any of that money. I remember I used to get one pair of shoes a year. Like, at the beginning of the school year, that's why school, like I said, I love school, because when the beginning of the school year came around, we got one pair of shoes and one outfit. One, maybe 2 outfits, depends on how cheap it was. And see, I was a big guy. I've always been a big guy, so I had to wear like man-size clothes or whatnot. So that's what I got. The first day of school, I got a pair of shoes and an outfit, and that was it for whole year. I had to make that last throughout the whole school year. And it got to a point when I got a little bit older, and once I got close toward the junior high year, that I used to have to, I started wearing my uncle's clothes, like my uncle's hand-me-downs, when he had some stuff that he didn't wear, even down to, and I think about it now, it's pretty disgusting, but even down to underwear. I used to have to wear my uncle's underwear, and that wasn't cool, because one, it was underwear, and two, my uncle he was like a player, you know what I'm saying? So, he always wore like bikini underwear. He was kind of called, he was kind of like a ladies man. So he wore a lot of bikini underwear. So I'm sitting here in school in these leopard print, bikini underwears all stuck up in the crack of my butt, and it wasn't fun times, it wasn't fun times at all. But that's kind of what I deal with. And I, like I said, we moved to my grandmother's house, moved to her house. And another thing that ended up happening a short time after we moved there, I got my cousins, their mom passed away. They lived over in the project. They lived in her village, and their mom passed away. And it was 3 of them. So when they mom passed, my grandmother ended up getting custody of them. So now we all in this one house. We had this one house, and it was a pretty big house, so we wasn't on top of each other. But the only money my grandmother had coming in was the Social Security and disability checks that she was getting. And and she was getting a little bit of food stamps for my 3 cousins that she took in, and she was getting a little bit of welfare for them, but it wasn't enough to take care of 5 kids. And then of course the grandma house, it became like the house, that everybody goes to, and they ain't got no better place to stay. They came grandma house. So I ended up having a cousin of mine that was more like an uncle to me. His name was Leo. He stayed with us for a while. He had one side of the house to himself, and then we shared the rest of the house. And my uncle, he had his own thing going on, which I can't talk about because he is so OG. You look at all these rappers and all these guys are supposed to be gangster these days, and they talk about how OG they are. And I'm gonna tell you something, you ain't seen the OG till you see my uncle. He's OG. He didn't, man, you don't talk about his business. You don't say nothing about his business. You don't say nothing about him. So just know that he was a good influence in my life. He did a lot to help raise me, but I will not discuss the details of how he made his money, so to speak, because I don't want to. He's a little small guy. He's older now, but I think he'll still get me, and I'm still scared of him to this day, because he was a small guy, but man, he was scrappy. You know what I'm saying? So he was like the influence in my life, and he had half of the house, and we had to share the other half of the house. And again, in the beginning, wasn't too bad, but over time, raising like me, I understand now. I'm raising, been raising 5 kids on one income myself, and this is a pretty nice income. And she was trying to raise 5 kids, 4 or 5 kids. She had me and my brother, so she was trying to raise 5 kids on money she was getting from the state. So it got rough. You know what I'm saying? It started to get rough. We was very poor. I can't tell you how many days we come in and there was no food in the refrigerator, and it was so bad that just to make sure that we can distribute and kind of ration out the food that we did have. Whenever my grandma goes shopping, we had the regular fridge, and then we had a deep freezer, then we had another freezer. and she had to have a lock put on the freezer just to keep for us from eating everything, you know, because she had to ration out. It wasn't like you see in these movies where they lock the fridge up so you can't eat. It wasn't that we couldn't eat. It wasn't so we couldn't eat everything, because everything had to be rationed out because she only had so much money. And like I said, to make things worse, even though my mom was getting the food stamp and stuff, whenever she got the food stamp, she went out and sold them. You know what I'm saying? She sold the food stamp. You know, so she would go again, she'll buy a few groceries. Let's say she was getting, I don't know exactly how much she was getting, but let's say she was getting $300-400 in food stamp. She would buy like $50 worth of groceries, and the rest she would sell so she can buy more drugs. So she wasn't really contributing, but yet me and my brother, we was there and we was taking away. So that's why the lock was on the freezer, not to keep us from eating. It was to keep us from eating. What up, Leo? That's my cousin there. We talked about his dad. And like I said, yeah, you know, respect. I appreciate you being there, bro. I hope you're having fun down there if you're still down in Mexico. But again, man, that's just how it was. It wasn't a mean thing. She just, like I said, she had to distribute because you know that she had to take care of 5 people, and all she was getting was disability and things of that nature. You know, so that's what this kind of we went through, and like, over the years, you know, trying to take care of 5 kids, and then we were growing, we began to be teenagers. Like I said, my mom would throw in a little bit every once in a while, but man, it got rough. Our house started kind of falling apart. Man, you come to the house, man, I mean, it was roaches everywhere, it was rats everywhere, you know, it was holes in the walls, roof caving in, you know, and honestly, if you just didn't know people lived there, you would think it was a condemned house. We had like 2x4s holding the roof up. I mean, all kind of craziness. And again, we didn't think none of it. Like, I didn't realize the situation that we was in. You know, we didn't think none of it because it was just, for us, it was home. You know, but like over a period of time, like there were certain rooms that when it rained, we couldn't even go in those rooms because it would literally rain in those rooms. You could possibly get electrocuted. You know, and like I said, rats and roaches everywhere. It was holes. All the plaster had came off the walls. There was certain spots in the house where you can just look down because the house kind of set up a little bit like maybe 3 or 4 feet off the ground. So there were spots in the house where you can look down and see through the floor. I mean, see down to the ground, like you look under the house from inside the house. So it was certain spots we couldn't step in because you can possibly fall through the floor. You know, so it was crazy. And I remember, sometimes like if you get up late at night, you know how everybody get up late at night, you might be a little thirsty or something, and you want to go to the kitchen get some water. Well, what we used to have to do, we would have to go to the kitchen, stand at the door, and the light was by the door. So we would have to hit the door, hit the light, to let the light come on before we can really go into the kitchen. Because it was so many, that's how many roaches was in the kitchen. Like, literally, when you went in there and cut the light on, it looked like the furniture got up and started moving. But really, it was just the roaches trying to scatter to get back into some darkness. That's the kind of thing we deal with. And, you know, and I remember we used to have cereals like, I became an adult before I started eating Rice Krispies, really eating Rice Krispies. And the reason why is because the roaches would be so bad that if we got cereal and we didn't eat them like within the first day or two, the roaches would get into the cereal box. And I don't know if you ever seen roaches, but when they lay their eggs look like little Rice Krispies. You know what I'm saying? So we never did know if it was eating Rice Krispies or we were eating roach eggs. And I couldn't have none of that. So we just, you know, so I didn't start eating Rice Krispies for the longest because we didn't know what it was because they looked like roach eggs to me. You know, and I still don't like them all that much, but, you know, I understand now that was just my situation. So, again, this is just me getting, my Uncle Goody told me I need to get more into the details because there's a lot of people that go through the same thing. So, you know, and of course my life verse I meant to start off saying is my life verse is Romans 8:28. That's the life verse. That's whenever I sign anything, I write Romans 8:28 on there. And the reason why is because Romans 8:28 says, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. So when you hear all these stories, like, man, I can't believe you live like that. I realize, and that's a reason why I got away from God. Why would I get to that eventually? I stopped running my mouth, but. When I realized that when I look back on my life, I realized as much as I went through all those things I went through, it was making me who the man I am. You know, it was that all things. But that's what I went through. That's what I lived in. That's the environment I lived in, and that's what I deal with for the majority of my whole childhood. From, like I said, from the time I was about 8 years old up until I finally moved out on my own, got my own place, moved out, and went off to college to Nashville. That's what we lived in. And again, it's so crazy, like you really, even though as bad as it sounds, even though that's what we went through, honestly, we didn't know the wiser because that's what we were used to. That's what we was accustomed to. I didn't realize how bad the situation is. Like, I didn't realize how bad my neighborhood was at. because, you know what I'm saying, it's bad. You know, people hear about Memphis. First thing you hear about all the violence and the horrible things that goes on. But there's actually a lot of love in bad neighborhoods. There was a lot of love. You know, a lot of people ask me, like, how did you make it through and you end up not selling drugs? Well, guess what? The reason why I didn't sell drugs is because of the drug dealers. You know, the drug dealers really, like the real OG drug, not these people now, they, you know, these weak individuals now, but the real OG drug dealers, man, they did everything they can because they knew, because like I said, I was always a smart dude because I love school, you know. And matter of fact, just some of the things I used to do, part of my hustle was my grades. That's how I ended up becoming a teller, because with my mom, because I always made good grades, I always had A's and B's. And what my mom would do, I didn't know she was doing it for a while, but she would take my report. Every time I got my report card, she would take my report card to around to all the drug dealers, and they would give her money for my report card. They gave me so many dollars for every A and so many dollars for every B. You know, so that became my thing. So when my report card came out, I would go to the drug dealers, show them my report card. They would give me money. The corner store, there was one. It was called Mulgary's. There was the main one kind of our neighborhood, and there was one called Johnson's, and then there was another one called Roxy's Grocery. And I would go to them, man, and take them my report card, and they would give me money for my report card. That's how I made money as a child. That's how I ended up being able to buy my own clothes. And not only that, I used to hustle myself, you know. So my grandmother had like I call it the network. It was like a network. It was like several old ladies that lived in the neighborhood, and the neighborhood was so bad. Again, I didn't realize how bad it was. Like, we literally lived across the street from one of the biggest drug houses on our block. Basically, these guys kind of ran our neighborhood as far as drugs. One of my family members, whose name I shall not mention, he had his own thing, and then these guys had their thing. You know what I'm saying? But they was a lot more stuff than this family member was. You know what I'm saying? So. And we lived like literally their front porch was like maybe, you know, they back door, which is where a lot of the majority of stuff happened, that they, you know, transaction, all that, was like not even 500 feet away from my front door. You know, we just sit there and watch, and we knew what was going on over there. But again, we never understood the situation we is and how bad it was in our neighborhood, because it was so much love. Honestly, a lot of times when we see violence and stuff go on in bad neighborhood, it's not because of the people from the neighborhood. It's from people that's not from the neighborhood that's coming in and breaking the rules. See, every neighborhood has a certain amount of rules that you got to abide by and follow. You know what I'm saying? And as long as you following the rules, you being loyal to the game, you don't have no problem. A lot of time when you see the violence happening and the things, people killing each other and all that, the shooting, that's because of somebody not being loyal to the game. They're not following the rules. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of what's going on. So, like I said, I never realized how bad it was. And man, I used to run up and down the streets all the time because I spent the majority of my childhood at Greenlaw Community Center. So, but what happened with my grandmother, another way I made money was, not outside of my report card, my grandmother, she had these network of old ladies, and they didn't like leaving the house because it was so bad, you know, and a lot of times they would need stuff from the store. So what they would do, they would call my grandmother up and be like, hey, they called me Maine, that was my name. They'd be like, hey, send Maine down here, I need some stuff from the store. So what I would do, I would go to these ladies' house, and they would have a grocery list, and I would go pick up their grocery list, and I would go to the store and get everything they need and bring it back to them. You know, and the people at the store knew me so well. I didn't even realize how illegal this was. But I mean, tobacco products, anything they needed from the store, I can go get. You know, so I went down to the store, and they would call ahead like, hey, we sending him to, get this stuff, just give it to him. And I would go, and I remember this one old lady named Miss Lott. She was one of my favorites. She loves snuff. She used to use snuff all the time. And I would have to go get her snuff. And that's how I made money. So what I would do, I would go and get the grocery list, go and, get the stuff, take it back to them. And I didn't have like a set price. So they just give me whatever. Sometimes they'll let me keep the change. It was a decent amount of change. Or sometimes they'll just throw me like $5. And sometimes they actually feed me. Like, have you ate today? And I'd be like, no, whatnot. And they'll actually, give me a meal. So, and then also when springtime came around, I cut their grass too. So that was my little hustle. That's the things that I did to make money when I was younger. And like I say, I love those little old ladies, man. They really took care of me. But again, it was a lot of love. Drug dealer. I remember one drug dealer, they called him Mo Money. And I remember one time. I was in the store, and what I would do, I would hustle from these little ladies to feed myself. I would hustle from the money from little ladies. I might have $4 or $5, and what I would do, I would go to the corner store, and they had a deli in the back, and you can order, you can get food like meats by like, no, just like I can get like, if I wanted bologna, I can get like $2 worth of bologna. And yeah, it'd be like 1 or 2 slices, you know, because they charge you about a pound or whatever. And this is what they would do. So that's what I would do. I would get up like $5 and I would go get me a pack of crackers and maybe $2 worth of bologna. Or my favorite thing I used to love to eat was called goose liver. Now the name of it is some German name, but we call it goose liver. So I used to love eating goose liver, you know, and so I go give me $1, $2 worth of goose liver, a pack of crackers and a drink, and that'll be my meal for the day, you know. And I remember one time the drug dealer, he came in and he like, man, you know, I was in front of the line and he had brought his stuff up to the counter. He jumped in front of me and he like called me Big Dad. Oh man, Big Dad, I'm sorry, Big Dad. I gotta get back out in this corner, man. I don't want to miss this money. So I'm standing there and I got my little $2 worth of bologna in my hand and my crackers. And he looked at me like, Big Dad, what's that? He said, I know you ain't finna eat that, Big Dad. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, man, I know that ain't it. He's like, ain't you gonna get some more? I said, man, I ain't got the money. So he's like, oh, come on, Big Daddy. You gonna be our football star, man. We gotta feed you. So I tell you what, here you go. And he pulled out this big stack of money, you know, and he just give me like $5, $10 right there. Like, man, go get you something else to eat, man. You know, and then he goes back out and do his thing. You know, that was the kind of love I experienced, you know, and I always tell people all the time, really, as bad as North Memphis was, it raised me. It's definitely deeply rooted in North Memphis and a lot of things I went through while I was there and a lot of things I was taught by, like I said, these drug dealers, these people that society look at as outcasts. They had love. They was misguided. They just like I was when I got a little bit older. They was misguided. They never had anybody show them the proper way, you know. So, but that was the love that I experienced in the neighborhood. Love that neighborhood. Those are things that I went through, you know. And like I said, it wasn't all bad. We didn't realize how bad it was. I didn't realize how bad I had it till I started seeing good. And I started hanging out on. I got older, working, started meeting new people and seeing how they was living. And I was like, man, my life wasn't nothing like that kind of thing, you know. So, like I said, it wasn't all bad. I had a lot of love. I had a lot of people in my life that influenced me for good, that guided me in the right direction. And that was the one thing God had did for me that I didn't realize later. He always sent the right person in my life at the right time to guide me down the right path to go in the direction I need to go to. You know, so again, it wasn't all bad. It definitely went all good, but it went all bad as well. And honestly, the worst thing that happened up until about the age of 9, now when 9, 10, that's when it really started going bad. But the only thing that really happened to me before that, the age of 8, before my mom started getting on drugs, was I was molested as a child as well. And that's something I kept that a secret for years, man, like 25 years. I got molested as a child by both sides of the family. You know, a lot of the time they teach you that people that molest and all that, it's the strangers and the creepy guys down the street. In reality, it's a lot of times family. And I was molested by family members for years. You know, started when I was about 4 years old. It was a guy on my dad's side of the family that started molesting me. And when I say molestation, you know, I say molestation because, you know, it just sounds, you think, oh, he touched you inappropriately or maybe, you know, took a picture of something. No, I was actually, the stronger version of what was really happening, I was being raped for years. And it was by 2 different men in our family. And like I said, it started with a man on my dad's side of the family when I was about 4. And then there was another guy on my mom's side of the family, cousin of ours that moved in from up north. He started doing it when I was about 8. And of course, people were like, well, how can you let it go on when this has been happening to you since you was 4 years old? You don't know the difference. You don't know that this is not normal. These things that these guys were doing to me or whatnot. So you don't know that when you're that young because you haven't been taught that. And then another thing you got to understand too. Back in those days, it's not like today. You know, you can get on the internet and Google just about everything and you got all the information in the world at your fingertips. But it wasn't like that back in the day. And, you know, and when back in the day, kids were kids. You didn't talk about adult things. Even if you went and asked an adult about something, they'll tell you, oh, boy, you don't need to know nothing about that. You'll learn about that later on, you kind of thing. So that's what we get told. So I didn't know that things were wrong. It went on from, like I said, when I was about 4 till I was probably around 10, 11 years old. I don't remember exactly when it stopped. But I know it stopped because I remember the cousin had to move back home for a while. And then by the time he came back, I was much older. I was a teenager at the time. So, you know, of course he wasn't trying none then. But that went on for years. And so I'm telling y'all all this so y'all can get a little bit more insight. Like I said, I'm sharing more of my childhood than I did the first time. So you can get a little more insight of what I went through and where I came from. Where that was my beginning. Like I said, it started off okay, but then as my mama got progressively worse on drugs, it got worse. And then by the time I was 10, she was a full-blown crack addict. And the only way she can support herself or keep money outside of the government, what the government was giving her, was by prostituting herself out to men. So she was the known neighborhood prostitute. You know, there's guys my age that I was going to school with that had sex with my mom, you know, because, you know, they had the right amount of money or whatnot. And you talk about, you know, how kids are cruel, you know, and there would be time back in Memphis, we call it checking. We, you know, some people call it playing a dozen or whatever. But, you know, and, you know, you get to checking somebody, and when they can say, oh, that's why I had your mom last night, man, it shut you up real quick, because it would hurt, because I didn't know if it was true or not. It was a very possibility, because she started prostituting herself out to men. And I'm telling y'all, man, there's nothing more disappointing or hurtful than not being able to give your mom kisses, because you don't know where her mouth was at. Me and my brother to this day, we don't kiss. We never, you know, when you get younger, you know, you kiss your parents kiss you on your mouth, or you let them kiss you on your face, and we couldn't do that. If she went to kiss us, we had to kind of like, no, we don't know, because we was wise enough, we understood enough that we didn't know exactly what was going on, but we knew enough to know, like, hey, she just left a few minutes ago, and now she's back. You don't want no kiss from her. So it's nothing more heartbreaking than not even be able to get kisses from your mom, because you don't know where she's been at and what she's been doing, and, you know, with her mouth. And that's the kind of heartbreaking thing. So, you know, stuff like that, man, it weighs on a person. It'll wear you down, you know. But the one thing I can say about me, and the reason why I was different from the everybody else in the neighborhood, is I never did let all that negativity that was going around me, going around in my neighborhood, what was going on in my life, it never got me down. I was always a happy person. Everybody tell you I was always a happy-go-lucky kid. I was just like, the world is great. I've always had that insight on the world. No matter what was going on around me, I always had that. I was always a happy-go-lucky person. You know, and to the point where some people, you get upset, like, man, you know, I remember this one girl, she's like, what all you got going on? How can you still be smiling and playing all the time? And I was just like, I never knew. And really, I know now, I didn't know it then, but it was just because the joy of the Lord was always in my heart. I didn't understand it. I didn't know the source of that happiness, where it was coming from. But now that I'm older, I know without a doubt it was because the joy of the Lord was always in my heart, because he always had something for me to do, even though I was going through all this stuff. So that was basically, like I said, my childhood in a little bit more detail than I normally would share, because the story is such a long story already. But I just think it's vital to see that's where I began. Those were my beginnings. You know, those are things I struggled with. And of course, you know, we had bullying. I had bullying here and there. Just about everybody that I hung with. And this is another thing that I forgot to mention. Just about everybody that I hung with or I lived with was in some way, shape, or form involved in criminal activities. You know what I'm saying? Whether it was selling drugs, it was doing drugs, prostituting, pimps. I lived with pimps. You know, I always felt like I was a sheep raised by wolves. But even though I had all that negativity going on, always going around me, it never affected me to the point I never became like that. You know what I'm saying? Like later on, I kind of started to go down that path, but I never became like that, and I never could figure out why. And again, it's because of God's grace on my life. You know, God had better for me, and he had given me enough wisdom to see that what I was seeing around me wasn't life. That wasn't it. That wasn't the paradise that he made for us, and that wasn't how my life had to be. I can't explain it other than the Holy Spirit working through me at a young age, but I knew that didn't have to be me. You know, and that's why I always strove to work to not be that. And that's how I stayed out of trouble. Even to this day, people's like, man, how you stay so busy? Why you always so busy? Because that's how I stayed out of trouble. You know, the Bible, you know, what is that saying? Idle hands is a devil's playground. When you got a lot of idleness of time, that's when you end up getting into trouble. And that's what I avoided. So, man, I was at school. When I got out of school, I went to work. You know, if I wasn't working, I was at the community center. Greenlaw, I spent a majority of my childhood at Greenlaw Community Center. Either I was playing basketball, I was shooting pool, or they had a whole lot of classes that you can take. Weightlifting was one of them. I was doing some weightlifting. They had cooking classes. They had aerobic classes. I mean, they had all these little classes. So I stayed there, and it kept me out of trouble. You know, between my studying for school and hanging out at Greenlaw and just running errands back and forth all day for the old ladies in the neighborhood, that's what kept me out of trouble. You know, and another thing that really came in toward my teenage years that really helped me, I was also a Boy Scout, and that ended up being a very essential part of my life. I was a Boy Scout. I started scouting probably when I was around 10, and great men. To this day, man, so grateful for what they did for my life. They became like father figures to me. And the one thing that God did for me, I ain't gonna say the one thing because he did several things. I missaid that. But one of the main thing that God did to help me out of the situation I was in was he gave me wisdom. I understood that when adults were telling me things as a most young people, they don't like to listen to adults. They don't want to do what adults tell them to do. But I had enough wisdom when I was younger to understand that when an adult was telling me to do something, it was for my benefit. They was trying to give me wisdom. It wasn't they were trying to spoil my fun or keep me from having fun. It's because they was trying to give me wisdom. You know, so I learned to listen to adults when I was younger, and I thank God that he always put the right adults, because you can get the wrong adult that tell you things and guide you down the wrong path, but he always put the right people. People was always positive with me. They was always guiding me in a positive way, and I was always listening, and that's why they dealt with me. They didn't deal with my other cousins and family members like that because they was hard-headed, but me, they did because I had enough wisdom to listen to them. You know, and so scouting really kind of helped me save my life as well. Like I said, my first scoutmaster was George Jackson, mean, grumpy old man. Oh man, he was so mean. But again, he was mean because he loved us, and we didn't like when we got there. Man, they told you leave all that hood crap out there. Don't bring that hood stuff in here. Don't come in here with your pants hanging out. We used to be really bad about saying man back in Memphis. Man this, man that. Now, don't say no man. I'm the only man here. You know, and they taught us respect. You know, they taught us more than not only the scout principle stuff, taught us respect. And then my second scoutmaster was a guy named Bruce Allen. Wonderful guy, you know, same thing. He was a little bit more mild mannered than Mr. Jackson was, but he was real, like, that's why we liked him as much. He wasn't as mean, you know, but a really good guy. And then what ended up being my final scoutmaster, he took over. His name was Jake Allen. And this guy, to this day, I call him Dad. You know, whenever I talk to him, he's like, hey, how my grandkids doing? That's kind of relationship we developed. And he really was there for me through my teenage years, helped me make right decisions, taught me what it meant to be a man, kind of thing, as much as he could, because he had his own family as well. But he did put a lot of time and invest a lot of time in me. Matter of fact, the first time I ever bought a car, got my first brand new car I ever bought, this guy, Jake Allen, co-signed for. You know, when I was in college, he co-signed for me to get my first car. You know, that's how close we end up being. And like I said, to this day, I call him, check on him. His health is he's getting a little old. His health has been going down, but I call and check on him all the time. You know, and like I said, so I thank God for that. So even though I had all this bad going on around me, I also had good as well. And, you know, in your life is what you make out of it, how you perceive it. You can look at all the negative and, you know, and be all upset and disgruntled because of that, which is what I did for a point. Or you can look at the positive. Yes, I had all this negative going on, but I had this positive going on too. And that's what I choose to reflect on more, the positive, the good that God had in my life than the negative. So that was my childhood, basically, in a nutshell. And of course, I didn't give like every good detail. But I mean, it was enough for you to know there was a lot going on, you know, and I could have easily, right now be dead or in jail, with the things that I've done, the things that I've seen, the things I was involved in. You know, I remember, seeing my mom, one time, this dope guy, police pulled up on this dope guy and he had to toss his dope. And my mom was in the area, and of course she was a drug addict. And, when he went back to find it, it wasn't there. And he assumed that she had stole it. So, man, I saw this dude who hit my mom in the mouth with a 40-ounce bottle, you know, just smacked in the mouth. Actually, this guy, he not only the bad part about it, he was a relative of ours. He was, you know, one of our like first cousins, and he just assumed that she had it, and he hit her in the face with a 40-ounce bottle and knocked all her teeth out, you know. And I remember seeing that. I once saw my mom be beat down with a wooden cane until it splintered. Not only did it break, it splintered. I remember the guy hitting her in the splinter, and me just being this little helpless kid that, you know what I'm saying, scared to death, can't even do nothing about it, man. That hurts, you know what I'm saying? So I've dealt with it. I've kept all those feelings from the molestation, the poverty that I lived in, You know what I'm saying? The things I saw happen to my mom, and just all the way I grew up in general, I always kept that anger inside because of what I went through, you know, and I let that eventually pull me away from God as I got older. So again, that was my childhood, and I can talk on about it today, but I think I've done enough, and that's only because my cousin told me I need to put more of my childhood in there so people understand. So that's where I began at. You know, a lot of people look at me and the success I have now. I'm a chemist, and I got 5 kids and taking care of them, and it look like everything is hunky-dory, and they don't realize how long, you know, how far away from my where I began that I am. And that's why I thank God. That's one of the reasons why I thank God so much. And then the other reason why I'm going to get into how it came about me being a servant. So that was my childhood, you know, and again, God blessed me with enough wisdom, and I was so intelligent that I was able to eventually, when I became 17, I was eventually able to move away from Memphis and go to college. So I ended up going to Tennessee State University. Matter of fact, I was 17 when I actually started college because my birthday, you know, college started around like August, and it was 2 weeks after before my birthday that college started. So I would like say, man, I got in college when I was 17, but it was only for like 2 weeks. So 17 come around, roll around, man. I finally get my way out. I was supposed to go to school in Minnesota. I had a football scholarship to go play for school in this private school in Concordia, Minnesota, Concordia University in Minnesota. And just through a series of events, it didn't work out. I had a friend of mine, he went the year before, and he like, man, he said he wasn't going back. And I didn't want to go by myself. And I'm like, why are you not going back? He like, man, it's too cold. And I never forget, like, man, are you serious telling me that you're going to quit college because of cold? He said, no, bro. He said, you don't understand. He said, we practiced one day. It was a negative 34 degrees. He said, man, I'm never going back to Minnesota. You know, so when he told me that, I didn't want to go by myself. And just so happened that same week, I got a letter from TSU, from financial aid saying I had got accepted and all my stuff would basically be paid for. I would have to take out a couple of loans, but I would have everything paid for. So that's how I ended up going to Tennessee. So I moved to Nashville, you know, left Memphis behind, and, you know, and really another that made me make that decision, because I still wanted to go to Minnesota. But the main thing that made me make that decision was my grandmother. Because the one thing I forgot to mention, like, I know I made her sound bad because she was mean, but she really took care of me. She's the one that I really think I got my work ethic for. And, you know, and definitely my spirituality came from her because she made us go to church. And our church was in Mississippi, you know, and show how great God was. We had an uncle, we call Uncle Han, that he lived close to Mississippi, but he drove it was a 30-minute drive to come get us away from where we was going. So he would drive over there to pick us up every Sunday to take us to church every Sunday down in Mississippi. So, it's like an hour and a half ordeal to come get us and get us to church and then drop us off and get back home. But he did that every Sunday. So those are the kind of people that God had in my life. And like I said, I didn't like my grandma for the longest because she was so mean and everything. But, man, I thank God for her every day for having her in my life, because she really put me on the path I need to be on as far as being a hard worker, but more importantly, having given my heart to God. She's definitely laid the foundation for that. You know, so, you know, I know I kind of made it, but that's just what it was, because she was mean. You know, so when it came time for me to leave to go to college, like I said, I was going to go to Minnesota, and she came to me and she like, look, she like, I know you got to leave. She said, I know there's no way you can stay here and still be successful. She said, so what I want you to do is, she said, at least go somewhere close. She's like, you go all the way up to Minnesota, there's no way you're going to be able to do anything. You know, if something happened or some emergency, you're not going to be able to get home. He said, so if something happened, because another thing I did as a kid, I forgot to mention this part of my childhood. When I was about 12, my grandmother started going, she had diabetes real bad, so she started going blind. So I actually would have to give her insulin shots. Like, I would have to get up, like, we had to leave school like 6:30 or something. So I would have to give her like 5:30 so I can give her insulin shots, prepare her breakfast, because she was blind. So as long as I prepared it and like put it, I had certain shelves in the refrigerator. I would put her breakfast on one shelf, lunch on one shelf, dinner on the other. I had to do that for her, and I was basically her caretaker up until I left for college. You know, so that's why it was, you know, she was really worried about me going so far away, because for the last, you know, from 12 to when I was 12 to about 17, I was her caretaker. I mean, I actually would have to, you know, do the shot, give her insulin shots. I would have to, you know, measure her blood, keep up with her blood, write it in the book, make sure her blood sugar didn't get too low or too high. I did all that for her for years. And like I said, she taught me how to cook. So I actually, for Christmas dinner and Thanksgiving dinner, I would actually cook Christmas and Thanksgiving dinner for the family. You know, and people can even tell the difference, because that's how much, because I remember one day I was in the kitchen, I used to like to lick the cake bowl after she made the cakes. and I was getting on her nerves. She hated people in the kitchen. And she told me one day, she said, well, yeah, my eyesight's starting to go. And said, if you're going to be here all the time, then you might well be useful. So she taught me how to make cakes and sweet potato pies and all that. So after she went blind, like I said, for the last 5 years of my life at home, I actually cooked I'm talking about the turkey, the dressing, the cakes, the pies, all of it. I made all of the devil eggs. I did all of that stuff. Now I don't do it no work mode because I got me a wife and I kind of let those skills go, but I can still get down if I needed to. You know what I'm saying? So she did, like I said, I didn't like it because she was so mean. But when I really look back on it, I'm so grateful that she was in my life because she really put me on the path that I need to get on. So again, when this opportunity came up for me to go to college, she came to me, she said, look, I know you need to leave. I know you can't stay in Memphis with the way your mom is, the way your dad is, and the way our family is. You're going to end up dead in jail. She said, so I know you need to leave. I just ask you to go close enough to where if something happened, you can get home. So that's how I ended up at TSU, because I did want to go to TSU as my second option in the first place. So it was my second option. I had already had thoughts of going there, and it's far enough. It's about 2.5 hour, 3 hour drive, depending on how fast you drive. So it was far enough away where my family wouldn't bother me, but it was close enough to where I can get back home if I needed to be. So I get to TSU, man, like again, now I wasn't the good kid, so to speak, but when you compare it to everybody else in my neighborhood and the things they were doing, getting gangs and selling drugs and all that, I was the good kid, so to speak. So, I come to TSU, man, good kid and everything, but now I'm free. I don't have to worry about taking care of my grandma all the time, and you know what I'm saying, and all that. And another thing I forgot to mention too, my younger brother, he's 5 years younger than me. By the time we was 12, I was 12, so he was about 3 or 4. Let me see. He was about 5, and I was about 10. So by the time I was 10, my mom was so bad on drugs that his dad ended up taking him from my mom, and we would only get to see each other so often. Now I would take care of my brother. I was always my brother's keeper kind of thing. So that's gonna come back in later on. So just let you know. So I always took care of him. So I didn't have to worry about him. I didn't have to worry about my grandma. I can do what I want to. So man, I got to college and man, I just went wild. You know what I'm saying? I went wild. Like I said, I was in Nashville. Nashville was so nice. And, you had places you can go. You didn't have to worry about getting shot and everybody of course, Nashville, you got certain places you can't, you need to stay away from. But in Memphis, that's the whole city. No matter where you go, at any time, something go down. But in Nashville, they had nice places you can go to. You didn't have to worry about it. Everything was nice. So I loved it. And man, I got the partying. And the crazy part was I smoked weed a little bit when I was in Memphis, but I wasn't really just I would class myself as a weed smoker. I was more of a social doer. Every once in a while I do it with my friends or something, but it wasn't something I had to do every day. But I got to college, man. I got to hanging out with fraternities. I got to drinking. Excuse me, y'all, which is something I said I'll never do because of what it did to my uncle. So I got to drinking. I got to smoking weed all the time. I got to a point where I was taking ecstasy pills. Again, not all the time because I wasn't really into chemicals. But I would take ecstasy pills from time to time. I was hanging out with these white guys, and they got me start trying shrooms. I ended up eventually starting hanging out with these white guys, and they got me trying shrooms. So, I just went and just kind of did all the stuff I hadn't did when I was in Memphis. I stayed away from. I got into when I was in college. And you think college should be a place where you higher education and you be away from those things. No, that's when I got introduced to it more. Partying every Saturday, going to parties. So I started doing all that. But guess the one thing that I stopped doing. The main thing I stopped doing was going to church. The first thing I stopped doing was going to church, and I started going to parties. I started smoking weed. I started drinking all the time. So that was the main thing, because again, I was out of my grandma's house. She couldn't make me go to church, and I didn't want to go to church because Sunday mornings was used for recuperate. You know what I'm saying? From the night before, from that party we was at Saturday night, or that party they're hanging out all Friday night. So I started doing the bad, and I got away from the little good that I did have. So I did that 2-3 years, man. I lived life, loved, loved everything. And I'll never forget it. Toward the end of my second year of college, my grandma called me one day, and it was my sophomore year when this happened. She called me one day and she said, "What up, Sean? Man, glad you're in here." But she called me one day and she told me, she said, "John," she said, "Look, I don't think I'm gonna live much longer. So I can feel it's getting close to the end." And she said, "You remember everything I did for you," which, like I said, now I look back on, she did a lot for me. She said, "The only thing I ask for you is to take care of your brother." She's like, "He's not as smart as you. He's not as strong as you. He's going to need a lot of help to get through this life. He said, so I'll just promise me that no matter what, you'll take care of your brother. Now I'm in college, I'm partying, man. I'm got girls everywhere. I'm doing my thug business, so to speak. So I'm not down like, yeah, grandma, whatever. I make this little kind of promise, yeah, I will. Well, Lord behold, man, matter of fact, I never forget it. It was year 2000. So I started in 97, college 97. So it was year 2000, the end of my third year of college, right before. Matter of fact, it's so crazy. And that's why I always felt like she was my guardian angel, because the week that I signed my lease, because the first 2 years of college I was going back and forth, staying in the dorms and going back and forth. The first couple of years, and then finally I was like, man, we're not gonna keep on doing this going back and forth. The first 3 years I did that, so I started with me and a friend of mine that was up there from Memphis. We decided to get an apartment together. A week after I signed the lease to get my apartment is when my grandmother passed away. So it was like, that was kind of like let her know, like, okay, he's ready, he's out on his own, he's living life, you can let go kind of thing. That's how I always looked at this. So she passed away, and it was a sad time for me. I'll never forget it. It was the week I was taking my finals. It was the end of my third year of school, and it was the week of finals of my third year of college. And she passed away. And I remember going and talking to all my professors and convincing them to let me take my test early so I can be home for her funeral. That's why it's so fresh in my head. And that was in May of 2000 when my grandmother passed away. The one that had been my lifeline, the one that really was responsible for me being who I am. She passed away. So when that happened, went home for the funeral, sad. I got deeper into the drugs, got deep into the whole drug life, smoking weed and taking ecstasy, and I was just wilding out, man, and really just rebelling. And like I said, by this point I hadn't been in church in like 2-3 years. Every once in a while I was a friend about, hey man, it's Easter Sunday, let's go to church. I was one of those kind of people. I'd show up on Easter Sunday, get me a new fit, show up on Easter Sunday, and that was it. And that's what I did. So that went on. So one day I get a call from Memphis, and it turns out my brother was down there and he was getting in some trouble. Him and his dad weren't getting along. He was my brother at the time, he was 15. So his dad finally just kicked him out. And police picked him up one day, and they called me and said, look, we have your brother in custody. This is the only number that he knew. And he said, either if you don't come get him, he's going to stay in the system till he's 18 and he can get a grown man, or you can work on getting him. Now I'm college, third year college student. You know what I'm saying? I'm barely straight by myself. I had a job working at Taco Bell, but that was it. But I had just got my first apartment, so everything was just lining out. So I was like, man. So I was like, well, I see. And my mind, like, well, I'll try. But no, I was only 21. So I'm like, there's no way they're going to give a 21-year-old custody no, he was 15, so I was 20. So I was only 20. So I'm like, there's no way they're going to give a 20-year-old custody of a 15-year-old kid. This just ain't going to happen. So I go down there, and I'm just going through the process so I can say I tried. Well, guess what, y'all? They gave me custody of my brother, a 20-year-old college student. They gave me custody of my brother because, like I said, I had my own apartment. I had a stable job. I was putting myself through school and everything. So I had all the intangibles, but I was just like, man, it's crazy. So they end up, at the age of 20, I went down and I legally got custody of my younger brother. So I'm thinking like, oh, well, this is my bro. We had always been close because I've always taken care of him. Even when I was working, I would send him money to get new shoes and stuff because his dad went by him, that kind of thing. So I was like, well, it's going to be my brother. We're going to have some girls. We're going to have some drugs. And, because he was smoking weed because he had got into smoking weed and I was smoking weed. So I'm thinking it's going to be all good. We're going to have this bachelor pad and it's going to be great. But I did not realize that I was sadly mistaken. Because, with a teenager, man, you got to really be there and lay some ground rules down for this teenager and be there for that teenager. And I couldn't do that. Because at the time, right when around that happened, I had just met my wife, who was my girl at the time. So our relationship had really just started. It was like just a few months in before all this happened. And by that time, she was actually pregnant with my first son, Cornelius. So she had already had a son before we met, Jason, which I've been with her since he was 3. So that's my son. But we had my first biological son, which was Cornelius. She was pregnant with him. So I got all this going on. Then they like, you got to come take care of your brother. So I get him, bring him up here, thinking everything gonna be cool. But man, this dude was hard-headed as hell. This is the only way I can put it, y'all. Went to school, getting in trouble for fighting, got to hang with the wrong crowd. hanging with these other kids that were smoking weed, and he was smoking weed, and they stayed in trouble and everything. And I never forget, it was this one time he ended up getting kicked out of school because what happened was he failed so much that he was like 15 in like the 10th grade. I mean, no, he was at this point he was 16. No, how old was he? He was this had been it was a year or so later. So he was like 17, but he was like in the 9th grade. Yeah, that's what it was. He was like 17 in the 9th grade. That's how much he had failed, how far he had been. No, he was 17 in the 10th grade. I don't want to lie. He was 17 in the 10th grade, but it was going to be a couple more years before he could finish school, and he was going to be well into 18 before that time. That's what it was. So he's 17, he in the 10th grade. We had been kicking it for the longest, like I said, had weed, doing all that stuff. So I never forget, he went to school, and he had this girl he liked, and this other dude liked the girl. So he was like, the dude knew that it was his girlfriend, so he wanted to go fight the dude over this girl. And I told, man, don't you do that. Like, man, I said, look here, you're a 17-year-old in the 10th grade. I like, you go to school fighting, they're going to kick your butt out of school and not let you back in, bro. I like, because you've become a nuisance to the school. So and I sit down and talk to him, he's like, oh man, bro, I probably won't do it. So I get up, I go to college, I'm in the middle class, my phone blowing up. I'm like, what's going on? I'm at school. So I finally get out of class, I go answer the phone. It's his school calling that he got into a fight with that dude. So, man, I go pick him up. I'll never forget, I was so pissed. It was the first time where I really had to lay down the law with him. Man, we got to the house, man, we had to throw hands. And just to let you know, you can ask him who was the victor. You know what I'm saying? But it was the first time I had to realize I had to start giving him structure and discipline, and we couldn't just do this. We buddy and all that. But by that time, it was too late. I had let it go on too long, and our house became a hangout spot. Like, you come into our house at any time, man, it was girls there, it was dudes there, and it was like a 24-hour party. Matter of fact, my roommate, who I originally started the apartment with, she ended up, after the first year, she moved out. She just couldn't take it. And I didn't realize now, I was a horrible roommate. I didn't realize it now. I look at it now, but I didn't realize then. I'm like, man, why is she moving? Everything is cool, but really, I mean, we completely infringed on her and took her rights away, so to speak, as my roommate. So she ended up moving out. So now it's just me and my brother. We got an apartment. And next thing you know, like I said, I'm smoking weed, he's smoking weed. So it got to the point, like me, I was a smoker. Like, I smoked. Like, I woke up smoking weed, I went to bed smoking weed. Like, and I smoked all day in between. So I would buy my weed. I'm not like most guys that say they weed smokers and they go buy dimes and dubs. When I bought my weed, I bought it by the ounce because I knew it was going to be gone. And plus it was a lot cheaper that way. So, you know what I'm saying? So normally it'll take me, 4 or 5 days, maybe a week, depending on how busy my week was, to go through an ounce. And when my brother moved in, and then along with his friends, what they started doing, they would, instead of going and buying weed themselves, they would just buy it from me. So we would do, I would eyeball it, which is just weigh it out without, looking at it. So I would weigh them out, they'd be like, hey man, I got $10, let me get a couple grams. So I just eyeball them a couple of grams or whatever. But what happened was, once I started doing that, it's like it started building up. Like, the little kids was hearing, like, oh man, you want some weed? Go to Gerald's brother kind of thing. So I went from going through 1 ounce every week to going through an ounce like every day. Like every other day I had to go buy me a new ounce. So what happened was the dude that I was getting it from, he was a college student himself. And he was like, well, he said, man, you going through it kind of fast. I tell you what, instead of just giving you an ounce, I'm going to give you a quarter pound, which is 4 ounces. If you don't know what drugs is, drug term. So he's like, I'll give you 4 ounces. He said, I'm going to give it to you. When you sell it or whatever you're doing, bring your money back, and then we'll go from there. So then I'm like, well, if I'm going to do this, then I'm going to get professional about it. So I went out and bought me a weed scale, bought me a scale I can weigh it out, got me baggies, and without even realizing, not intentionally doing it, I got into selling weed, and that's just how I started, just innocent. Well, I'm just trying to give me a smoke sack. I'm this way, if I sell it, I can cover my sack kind of thing. And I didn't even realize now I'm a drug dealer, so to speak. And and then of course, when I'm getting a quarter pound, I'm getting even cheaper. And see, the thing was, I did something that made me popular. I didn't bag tax. And what bag tax is when somebody weigh your weed out in a bag. See, a plastic bag, it weigh between 0.8 and a gram. So if you're going about 3 grams and they weigh it out in the bag, you really only getting like 2.2 grams. See, I didn't do that. I weighed the actual weed on the scale. So when you came to me, you got your full, you paid $10 for 2 grams, you got 2 grams. You might got 2.1 if it was a little bit of shake involved. You know what I'm saying? So that got out, and man, it just started blowing up. So I went from getting a quarter pound, going through that every few days, then I had to move up because my clientele was building up. So next thing you know, I was getting half a pound. So then I got that, and then every few days that I had to go re-up with that. So finally I got to a point where I was getting a pound. And I had met this Mexican guy, I can't remember his name, but I met this Mexican guy through a friend of mine. I met this Mexican guy, and he was able to give me pounds of weed for depending on how good it was, between $400 and $500. Now, that sounds like a lot, but if you know weed and you know weight and all that, that is nothing. That's like dirt cheap. You know what I'm saying? So I'm getting 4 pounds of weed for $400 or $500, and I'm only selling nickels and dimes. Now, if you're selling wholesale, then that's not a big deal. You know what I'm saying? But if you're selling nickels and dimes, that's a lot of money. You know, that's a lot of money. So next thing you know, I'm getting pounds of weed, and I had built up so much clientele, and most of it, and this is one thing I'm ashamed about. It was mostly kids. I ain't gonna lie, most of my clientele were high school kids. Cause that's, through my brother, his friends or whatever, my crew, they was mostly high school kids. So they was, high school kids and, and coming through. And like I said, when you come to my place, it was no violence. It was no gang. We was kicking it. You know what I'm saying? When you came to my place, it was always a good time. It was comfortable. You go to, if you purchase drugs before, sometimes you go there, you realize like, man, I can get shot or anything bad can happen because of the vibe or the environment. It wasn't like that in my place. My place was always organized. It was always only good people there. You can come, you can hang out, you can smoke and roll one up and match one. I mean, that's what we did. So people just loved messing with me because it was just like a safe way to get drugs, so to speak. And like I said, most of them was high school kids. So it got to a point where I was going through a pound like every 3 or 4 days, selling nickels and dimes. And I was only paying $400 to $500 for those pounds. So again, you do the math, that is a lot of money. All right, matter of fact, you can do the calculation. I ain't gonna get into that calculation because I ain't got it in my head. A pound is 16 ounces in a pound. All right, and it's 28 grams in an ounce, and I was selling each gram for $5. So you do the math on that. You do all that calculation. Y'all know that's how much money I was making, which is a lot of money. So, of course, once that started happening, I started meeting more people. I started getting, meeting more connects. And then next thing you know, ecstasy pills was starting to be big. So that kind of came into the picture. And then I was hanging out with white guys, and they like mushroom. So that came into the picture. And then pills, that's when Oxycontin and hydrocodone and all those things started getting big, too. So that came into the picture. I thank God that meth hadn't came to the picture yet, because me being a chemist, I probably end up in that. But it's just kind of without, and this is what sin does. So me and my kids, we doing Judges right now, and we were looking at the life of Samson. And that's what sin does. You don't realize when you're out there sinning and doing stuff you're not supposed to do, it snowballs, and it gains momentum very quick. It started off me just innocently selling these guys little dime sacks from here and there. The next thing you know, I'm buying weed from the pounds. I'm getting like Mexican connects, probably had connections to the cartel. Didn't even realize it, because I wasn't even thinking. I was living so ignorantly back then. Kind of thing. And like I said, it progressed. And next thing you know, I'm selling pills. I got guys I can get pills from for people that like pills. And but the one thing I said I would never do was coke. I said I would never deal with cocaine, because like I said, my mom started off on coke, and then she ended up going to crack, and that's what I figured ruined my life. That's why I always looked at the thing that ruined my life. So I said, no matter what I did, so no matter how desperate I was, I would never sell that coke. So, but I sold everything else, and I actually, and the guy ended up moving in with me that did sell coke. So I kind of really Slick sold it, because he lived with me, he sold it, and he gave me money from his profit. So Slick, I was selling it too. And of course I knew he sold it. So if people needed some, I can tell her, hey, my guy got it. So I kind of Slick did, but I never actually touched coke myself. I never myself weighed out some coke and sold that. So I guess I can say that in that aspect, I kept my hands clean, but I was still responsible for people getting it. So this went on. This is how I got into the drug life. Like I said, I just kind of lulled myself into it, and I didn't realize what I was getting into. Not trying to be Tony Montana or no stuff. It's just I was just trying to make some money. So by this time, I had all 3 of my boys. Had my my baby mom at the time, taking care of her because she wasn't working. Because that was the one thing I said. I said, if I ever have kids, because me being molested when I was a child and being raped by these 2 men and a couple of women when I was a child, I always said that if I ever have kids, my wife would never work. That way I can make sure that it's somebody that's going to care for our kids. So, you know what I'm saying? So even though me and her didn't live together, I paid all her bills. I took the kids' food. I took the kids, I took care of the kids, make sure they had clothes, everything they needed for school. I did all that. So I was really working to pay for 2 households. Not to mention, I'm still putting myself through school because I hadn't graduated from school yet. So, man, I'm telling y'all, I was working a full-time job. I was going to school full-time. I was doing work study at school to make a little extra money, and I was selling drugs. I mean, that's how, I was grinding. Like, I didn't even sleep. I took naps throughout my day. Like, I might get a period where I got an hour or two where I don't have to be somewhere, and I'll lay down and take a nap, and I get right back up, got to it. That's what I was going through. And this went on for like almost a year and a half, about 2 years, you know. So it got to a point I had built up such a clientele, and I had been doing so good with just the weed and the little pills, and which really in the drug world is petty stuff, you know. So I ended up catching the eye of this one guy that sold coke, you know, because he would come and get weed from me from time to time. So I caught his eye. And he came to me, and this come up to now where God really come in. Because at this point, like I said, at this point, it had been about 5 years since I had really been to church. Hadn't been praying. They hadn't prayed at all. Other than something was going bad, like, oh Lord, get me out of this, like everybody do. But I hadn't really had a whole heart relationship with God. One hadn't read my Bible since I don't know when. You know, this is the point that this how long it had been. So I was, like I said, about as far away from God as a person can be, especially somebody that's supposed to be a Christian, and especially somebody that was raised up in the church. God was the last thing on my mind at any given moment. I was always worried about my girls that I had. I had my baby mama, but of course I had, you know, girls on the side as well. And then, you know, my money. That's all I cared. My money, my drugs, when I'm gonna get high. I mean, you know what I'm saying? That's all I cared about at the time. So fast forward, now it's 2003. That's where we at. The story gonna start finally come to a head. So it's 2003. Again, I'm living good. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I'm this Scarface kind of individual. I had a crew, man. I had these young guys. You know, whatever I said they would do. You know what I'm saying? I was just like a mobster, a don or something. Like, you know what I'm saying? I felt good. My pride was up in my heart and everything, and I was feeling all good. I had a nice apartment. My wife, I'm paying her bills. I'm paying for my apartment. I had like 2 or 3 different cars. Matter of fact, my boy Sean on here, he used to take care of my car, kept me on the road. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it was good, man. I had everything I needed, everything I thought I wanted. But at the same time, I was still empty inside. I was still like, when I was with everybody else and they was around, yeah, I was Big Wop. That's what they call me, Big Wop. If you ever heard somebody call me Big Wop, that's from my old drug life. You know what I'm saying? My college drug life. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I had that going on. I was Big Wop. But when I was by myself, I was really depressed. You know what I'm saying? I was really down. I was like, man, what am I doing? Because I realized, I had this feeling like I realized I wasn't really living, I was existing. I wasn't really living, I was just existing. I was really just getting up, you know what I'm saying, doing what I need to do just to make it to the next day. I wasn't really doing anything for this world. And it was like, if y'all heard what I was going through in my childhood and all I went through in my childhood, to make it through that and to get here, I was on my last year of college. It was my last year of college, so I was a senior getting ready to graduate. And I'm doing this. This is nothing. You know what I'm saying? And my conscience always bothered me because, like, I always, you know what I'm saying? I always knew I was meant for more. But this is how I just fell into it. I guess the North Memphis finally got to me. So that was going on. And what happened was this guy came to me and he made me an offer. You know, he sold coke and he came to me and he told me, man, look, he said, man, you mess with all these little petty drugs, bro. You spend selling weed and pills and all that to these little kids. He said, man, I'm telling you something. He said, you really want to make some money, man. You need to start selling coke. He said, man, I already got the coke connect. We can get the kilos for little or nothing. He said, man, with your weed connect and your pill connect and then my coke connect, he said, man, we can just get us together, get together and have us a house. He said, man, we can set us up a house, having, you know, in a good spot that everybody get through. That's that's kind of low key. He said, man, we get barred up. I mean, he just went through this whole game plan. But basically, me and this dude gonna go half and half on the house. You know, he's like, man, you got the coke, the weed and the pill clientele. I got the coke clientele. So when your folks come for the weed and the pills, you know, I can suggest cokes to them. And when they come for my people that want coke come for the weed, I can suggest, you know what I'm saying, come for coke. You know, I can suggest your weed and pills to them. So he gave me this game plan. He's like, man, we can do this. He said, man, we can make so much money. And at the time, like I said, I had been struggling for 2 years, man, working full time, work study, selling drugs. And at the time, like I said, I had my baby mama I was taking care of. I had my 3 kids, my 3 boys that I was taking care of, fiscally responsible for, and my brother. And then all these other kids from my crew that had kind of moved into my house too, because they end up getting in trouble with their parents, and you know what I'm saying, so they end up living with me. So I got this whole group of people I'm taking care of, and the weed money was good, But honestly, it wasn't enough. You know what I'm saying? Then the money I was using for my job was just to buy more weed and stuff. So it was getting enough. So it was getting to a point where I'm like, well, I'm going to have to do something. So even though I had vowed when I got into this drug life that I never would sell coke, now I'm thinking about it. You know what I'm saying? That's how the devil gets you. You know what I'm saying? He gets you when you're weak. And I was at a weak point, so I started thinking about it. But I still wasn't right. You know what I'm saying? It still wasn't right to me. So I told the guy, he made me an offer with the coke. I'll never forget, it was around, it was the beginning of December 2003. So he made me this offer to start selling this coke. And I thought about it. I said, man, look, this is something I'm not cool with on selling coke. It did a lot to ruin my life. I don't know if I want to get on it. Cause plus the thing with me too, I'm the type of person, I don't do, y'all pardon my language, I don't go half-ass on anything. Anything I do, I'm in it, 100%, 10 toes down. So, you know, when I was doing the drug, the weed and all that, I was in it 100%. You know, now I'm doing the God thing, I'm in it 100%. That's why I'm so, dedicated to this ministry, because whatever I do, I put all my energy into. So I knew if I started selling coke, I was going to put all of my energy into selling coke. And if you been in a drug life, selling weed and pills is one thing, but selling coke is a whole nother monster. And then meth came along, that's even worse. You know what I'm saying? But selling coke is a whole nother monster, and it comes with a whole nother set of dangers that you know what I'm saying, that you got to really want to know, like, is this something I want to deal with? And I knew it was something I going to want to deal with, but I had convinced myself that, man, with him, this dude, because he had been selling coke for the long, like, well, with him, he got my back. Maybe I should do this. But again, my spirit was just kind of telling me, like, wouldn't let me go that way. So I said, man, look, I tell you what, we had a meeting, we discussed everything, and he laid the game plan out to me. I said, I tell you what, man, I said, I'm not cool with selling coke because of what it did to my life. I said, but that's not a no. I said, how about this? Because he was wanting this was around December, he was wanting to get the house by the springtime so we could set up for the summer, because that's when the most money is made, especially with drugs, kids out of school, that kind of thing. So I told him, I said, I tell you what, give me 6 weeks to think about it, man. I said, give me 6 weeks to think about it, and I'll let you know in 6 weeks what I'm going to do or not. He's like, all right, man, don't be BSing, man. You know what I'm saying? We got to do this. We need to go because we got to find a house, do all this. I said, all right, man, just give me 6 weeks. So when I told him that, for the first time, y'all, in my life that I can remember, other than when I asked the Lord to save me when I was younger, the first time in my life, though, but definitely in a long time, I went to God with my whole heart. You know, and I didn't, excuse me, I'm sorry. But it wasn't, I went to, oh, Father God, guide me in a direction kind of thing. I went to God and I kept it 100% with God. You know, and I told God, by this time I hadn't been in church in about 4 or 5 years. I knew my grandma would probably roll over in her grave with all I had done. My scoutmaster that helped me out, had he found out what I was done, he would have been highly upset, because he was a good, strict religious man as well. And all the people from my church that had invested all their time and effort into me, they would, like, with the way I was living at this point back in December 2003, man, it would have been a lot of people upset had I ended up dying or going to jail or something over it, because I was not living. I was so far away from what I honestly knew the whole time that God had for me. So the guy made this offer, and I went to God, and I said, look here, God. I said, honestly, at this point, like I said, I had been far away from God as I can possibly be, and I had all this animosity because of all the stuff I went through in my childhood. You know, and that's why I explained the first hour explaining a little bit more about my childhood and the trauma I went through, so y'all can understand this testimony a little bit more. You know, so I got all this stuff I'm dealing with of how rough my life was, how poor I was, and how I got molested by these 2 men for all these years, being raped by 2 different men for 6 years of my life. And I had all this animosity in my heart toward God because of all this stuff that I had experienced in my childhood. You know, and I went to God and I told God, I said, look here, God. I said, man, I got to keep 100% with you. I said, honestly, I don't even know if you're real or not. I don't know if you're really real or you just some other fairy tale that they made up to keep us under control. I said, I really don't know. I said, really, my faith is, the faith I do have in you come from just my grandmother, seeing her praying the way she prayed, and she put her faith in you, and she just had such an influence on my life, it just rubbed off on me. I said, but honestly, in my heart, if I look in my heart, I don't know if you're real. I said, so I tell you what, you need to show up and show me without a doubt that you're real. I need to know 100% that you're real. I said, because if you don't, I'm going to start selling these drugs, and I'm not going to have nothing else to do with no God. I said, I'm going to go do what I want to do. I'm going to sell these drugs, and I'm not going to have nothing else to do with God. And I know once I get into selling drugs, I'm going to go all into their life, and I'm not going to have no time for no God, because I'm going to be too busy making my money. I said, so if you don't want me, if that's not the path you don't want me to go down there, then you need to show up and show me that you're real. you know. And I didn't get on my knees. It wasn't, I went humbly. I just really just kind of arrogant. Like, you either show me or else kind of thing, you know, gave God this ultimatum. So I prayed that prayer. It was the first week of December. And I prayed that prayer, didn't think nothing of it. You know, went about my life, and it was about 2 or 3 weeks before anything finally, you know, happened. You know, because with God, you got to be patient with God kind of thing. A lot of people don't understand that, and that's why they get out of the will of God. So about 3 weeks passed. It's the week right before Christmas. I never forget it. Week before Christmas. You know what I'm saying? Up until this week, I had been making all kind of money and had everything, you know, nice and going good. And the week before Christmas, all of a sudden it just stopped. Like, that whole week leading up to Christmas, I sold nothing. I mean, like, I'll never forget, I took all the money I had, because I'm like, man, the kids about to be out of school, you know what I'm saying? People gonna be on vacation, all that for Christmas. I'm about to make some money. You know, that's what I was thinking for Christmas. I was like, I'm gonna make some money. So, but instead of going and buy my kids Christmas presents, I took all the money I had and I went and bought drugs with it. I bought pills and weed and you know, everything again except for the coke. I stocked up. So I'm getting ready. I'm like, I'm knowing it's finna come, and man, it just stopped. Like the moment, like the day after I went and spent all my money on these drugs, it stopped. Nobody came through. I might have sold a couple of dub sacks. And I was just like, man, what the heck is going on? Like, you know what I'm saying? So I'm sitting up here with all this money tied up in these drugs, but no money in my pocket. You know, so I really got depressed there. And that's when I really started questioning, like, man, what am I doing? You know, why am I doing these things? I've been selling these drugs almost 2 years. I'm supposed to be this big bad drug dealer, and I'm sitting here broke around Christmas. And it was really hurting me because it looked like I wasn't going to be able to buy my kids anything for Christmas. That's what was hurting me the most. So one of the strayaways that I had moved in with me, you know, that he had saw me one day. It was a white kid, you know, young white kid, and he like, man, what's going on? He said, you look depressed. I said, I am. He said, what's wrong? I said, man, I'm supposed to be this big bad drug dealer, and I can't even buy my kids nothing for Christmas right now. He's like, what? He said, I thought you had. I said, yes, I got the drugs. I said, but I can't do nothing. I can't take a pound of weed into Toys R Us and be like, let me get these toys. I said, it don't work like that. I said, and nobody's been coming through. And I'm like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. So a little bit known to me, what he did was he went to his mom and told his mom, like, hey, because his mom didn't know that I was a drug dealer. That I had been dealing drugs and her son was living with me because, you know, he was in my crew kind of thing. She just knew that, you know, because him and her was having some problems and he was moving with me. And when he moved in with me, he started doing better. And this is the one thing I forgot to mention is, like, when I talk about my crew, yes, I had a lot of my crew consisted of high school kids. But when they wanted to become part of my crew and wanted to sell for me, I had requirements. And a lot of people are like, man, how you going to give people requirements to sell drugs? I had requirements. And I told them, I said, if you're going to sell drugs for me, you got to go to school every day. You got to have perfect attendance in school, and you got to have at least a 3.0 GPA. You know, and I tell us that these kids come to me, they had dropped out. Now, matter of fact, this one kid in particular I'm talking about, he had up until this point, he had made like all F's. His GPA was like a 1.7 or something like that. But they came and started living with me, started selling drugs for me, and next thing you know, man, these kids got like 4.0s. These kids are like taking the ACT test, applying to college, just because they want to be around me, you know, kind of thing. That's why I was thinking, well, they just want to be around me kind of thing. So and that's going to come into play a little later on. So this kid, you know what I'm saying, his mama knew that since he'd been with me, he had started doing a lot better. He started going back to school. Because I told the kid, I said, look, I don't hang around with losers. I said, you're going to be whoever you hang around in a few years. So if you hang around with a loser, you're going to be a loser yourself. And I said, I'm not a loser, and I don't hang with losers. So I like, that's what I told him. I said, if you're going to sell dope for me, you're going to go to school and you're going to get good grades. And they started doing it. You know, these kids went from dropouts and like the bottom of the percentile as far as grades to making like straight A's and stuff. So his mom, she didn't know why he was doing what he was doing, but she knew that since he started staying with me, he was doing a lot better. So he went and told his mom, like, well, this guy, you know, I'm staying with, the one I've been staying with, been helping me. He's coming to some problems, and he came by his kids' Christmas present. I didn't know he went there. So one day, I'm in my house, my apartment. I'm sitting there wallowing in my own self-pity. Oh, woe is me. And I get a knock on the door, and here comes this little white lady. She got her minivan bagged up into my steps with the thing open, man. She had a minivan packed with toys. And she bought my kids Christmas that year. You know what I'm saying? And probably gave him stuff that better than what I could ever gave him. You know what I'm saying? So she bought my kids Christmas that year. You know, so everything that I wanted to give them, she gave them plus more. And man, when that happened, that just humbled me. That brought me to my knees there. Because it really made me start thinking like, how can I be this big bad drug dealer and I had to get some little white lady to buy my kids Christmas present? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? It humbled me. I really started realizing I wasn't as big as I thought I was. If I was really big like I thought I was, this wouldn't even be happening right now. But this lady came in, the active kindness out of her heart, and she bought my kids Christmas. They had one of the best Christmas they had ever had because of this lady behalf. So that humbled me right there. So I really started thinking about like, okay, what am I doing? You know what I'm saying? I know I'm getting ready to graduate. I was actually finishing up my last semester in college, getting ready to graduate. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sitting here, you know, trying to be this drug dealer, this Al Capone type dude when I know that's not in me. You know what I'm saying? I left Memphis to escape this. How did I end up here? You know, and it was because of this hatred I have for God. I was really, and I didn't realize at the time, but I was rebelling against God. And that's what got me in that life. My rebellion against God took me down that path. So I started pondering, and that's what the first time I started hearing my spirit speak to me. Now, when I say that, I don't want y'all to think I've heard a voice, I've heard God's voice or nothing, but you know when your spirit speaking, we call it our conscience. We got a bad habit of, because these psychologists, they want to call it your conscience, but it's not your conscience. That's the spirit. When you got that little voice that's telling you, that little thing or whatever you want to call it, that's telling you not to do something because you know it's not something you're not supposed to do, that's the spirit of God that's in you. And it started growing, and it started talking to me. And I started noticing, like, I couldn't, like, for the next few days, I still hadn't sold any drugs yet, so I'm still broke. My kids had their Christmas, but I'm still broke. I got rent coming up pretty soon. I didn't know what I was going to do. But my spirit started talking to me. And it just kept saying, like, you need to confess yourself. You need to confess yourself. Confess yourself. And I was like, well, what do you mean confess? Because, like, everybody knew I was a drug dealer. It wasn't something that was a secret, big secret. So I'm like, why do I need to confess? But it's just, that spirit. Again, I didn't hear a voice, but something just telling me I just need to confess. I need to confess to somebody. So this went on for like almost a week. You know, it was Christmas, after that happened on Christmas, the next day is when it started happening. So it got to a point where I was so uncomfortable, I couldn't even sleep. It was like stressing me out. I couldn't sleep because I was trying to ignore it, but I couldn't ignore it. You know, and we do that. We ignore our spirit for so long, and we put on the back burner for so long, but eventually, you know, the God will have a way of drawing that spirit back out, and that's what he was doing. So my spirit started getting stronger, and it was talking to me. It was saying, confess. And I never forget, finally I gave in. It was December 31st. I never forget, because it was the day before New Year's. It was December 31st. I was trying to get some sleep because I already wasn't really sleeping, and I was trying to get in my little 2-3 hours I would normally get in, but I could not get to sleep. And something just told me, you need to confess yourself. So I got up, and I never forget, it was like 2-3 o'clock in the morning. I got up, I went to my table. Now the table that I broke my drugs down on, it was a glass table, and I like glass because, you know, if something fall when you're winning out, a lot of time weed, especially with weed, it kind of like, and I didn't have dro and nothing like that. I want to let y'all know, I just had regular weed. Like, I ain't like these guys that gotta have a dro. I just had regular old weed. But, you know, you came to me, you got a lot of it. So that's why I had such a huge clientele. So I'm sitting at this table while I would normally be breaking drugs down there, and I never get, I got a pen and some paper, notebook paper, and I just started writing. You know what I'm saying? I just started writing, and just like I was just pouring out my heart in a letter, so to speak. I just started pouring out my heart in this letter. So I'm writing, and just kind of really just zoned out. Just everything that was in my heart, everything. And in this letter, it was everything that I knew that I wasn't supposed to be doing. It was like a confession. I mean, that's what I was basically doing, confession. So everything I knew I wasn't supposed to be doing, all the bad situation, the women, the drugs and all that stuff that I knew I wasn't supposed to be doing, I'm just writing. I'm writing this letter. So I finally get done, and I got this 5-page confession, basically talking about all the drugs that I had been doing, the part, and how many times I had cheated on my girl, you know what I'm saying, how I had all these side chicks, even though my baby mama had been completely loyal to me. I mean, just everything that I could think of that I knew I wasn't supposed to be doing, I put in this letter. It was a 5-page letter. So when I got done, I looked at it, I was like, whew, you know what I'm saying, I felt good. I got that off my chest. I said, so now what I'm going to do with it? And then it was like, mail it to somebody. You know what I'm saying? Spirit. I'm like, mail it to somebody. I'm like, who am I going to mail this to? And the first thing that popped up in my mind was my scoutmaster, Mr. Allen. That's why I brought him up earlier. First thing that popped in my mind, mail it to him. And I'm like, I'm not mailing this to Mr. Allen. And the reason why, because Mr. Allen, he was a military dude. He was very religious. and he was really strict. And he actually, he had a son that ended up, going down the wrong path, and he kind of disowned his own son because his own son got into drugs. So I'm like, man, I'm an adopted son, so to speak. So I know if I send this to him, he's going to be highly upset at me. And then another thing, I mentioned y'all that he had co-signed for me to get my first car when I was in college. Well, some stuff had happened, and my money was so tied up in my drug life that for like a year and a half, I hadn't even made any payments on my car. So, you know what I'm saying? So he had to start making my payments on my car to keep it from messing his credit up. So he had to all of a sudden out of the blue, had to start paying for this car that he wasn't even using. And not only that, and again, this to my shame, not only did I stop making the payments, I stopped talking to him completely. I was avoiding when he would call. I wouldn't answer his calls, you know what I'm saying? And didn't hear nothing from me for like a year and a half. So with that being said, I knew that he wasn't going to want to hear from me. And not only that, but he wasn't going to want to hear what I was doing. But again, that spirit was like, man, you need to mail it off. So I actually got out, put on some clothes, got an envelope, got a stamp, and put that in, because I always kept envelopes and stamps around before when I sending my bills and stuff off. So I put on my clothes, got an envelope and stamp, and I went and put that letter in the mailbox on December 31st. I wanted to make sure it got in there on that day. So December 31st, 2003, I put the letter in the mailbox. And then when I put that letter in the mailbox, I went home, man, I had this peace about me. I can't explain it. It's just like I got it off my chest. I had this peace, and I went home, man. I slept. I actually slept. So woke up later that day, went to work and everything, didn't think nothing of it. January the 1st came around, New Year's Eve, January 1st, 2004. And man, I'm telling y'all, I had the best day ever. Like, man, my phone, like, it's just like once I sent that letter off, it's like, I don't know, whatever little spirit was on me, it was gone. And man, it was back I was popping. I was on the pop again. And man, within a day, I sold out all the drugs that I had stocked up on that I hadn't been able to sell. I sold them all in a day. And then I went and read up and sold that out. And then I went and read up and sold it out. I sold out 3 times within 1 week. You know what I'm saying? So I had money just like all of a sudden falling out the sky. And you know what I'm saying? Now I'm really like, man, I was worried about nothing. You know how our pride is. Like, oh man, I was worried about nothing. That, it was just a little slow spell. So now I'm back to me. I'm back to me, So about this time, my 6 weeks was up that I told the coke dealer that I was gonna get to him. So my 6 weeks was up, and he came to me again like, man, hey, it's been 6 weeks. What you gonna do? And I had so much money coming in from just the weed and the pills at this point. I was like, man, I don't need to bring no coke into this, because I was making like bukus. I was making like twice as much, if not 3 times as much as I was at first. So I'm like, man, why bring coke into this? But it was just so tempting. It was just, I was like, look, bro, I said, I ain't trying to mess you around. I said, I'm still not 100% sold on this coke thing. I said, give me just a few more weeks. He gave me a few more weeks, you know what I'm saying? Give me about 3 more weeks, because this is about the middle of January. I said, man, give me about 3 more weeks, 3-4 more weeks, and I'll let you know for sure. I'm going to let you know. He's like, all right, man, you BSing. Spring going to be here before you know it, and it's going to be too late. We need to get set up shop so we can get the clientele to come in and blah, blah, blah. So, all right. So for the next 3-4 weeks, man, I'm talking about like everything I wanted to happen happened. It was almost like I was magic. You know what I'm saying? I just felt like I felt this presence on me. And it felt like the presence of God, but I didn't know what it was. I just knew that whatever I wanted to happen, happened. Every time I went to re-up, I got better dope for cheaper prices. It was insane. If I needed something to happen, it happened. If I needed some money to come through, it come through. If I had a certain girl that I wanted to hook up with, I was just walking up to her like, hey, what's up? We're going to do this. And it was just like no effort. Like everything I wanted, like it was coming through. And it got to a point, I was like, man, maybe, it's not something this God thing. Maybe I just need to be selling dope. Maybe this is what God want me to do, kind of thing. And that's how ignorant I was. So this goes on for 3-4 weeks. So finally, it's February the 13th. I never forget it. This is what the Lord finally stepped in and got me away from my ignorance. So it's Friday the 13th. Now, the job that I was working at the time, I worked at this place. It was called Clover Bottom, and we work with mentally retarded people. I guess, I don't know if that's politically correct, but that's what they was. And I worked 3rd shift. So what we would do, basically we get there and we put them in a bed, make sure they sleeping. And then like once every hour we go in there, we do around, make sure they're still breathing. Cause sometimes they had a tendency of stop breathing while they sleep and they can pass away. So that was our job, basically watch them sleep, make sure they were still breathing and check on them every once in a while. Then in the morning, we got them up, got them dressed and got them to breakfast. And then we leave. So that was our job. So majority of the night we spent just, sometimes we had these deep, theological conversations vacations. Sometimes we just play video games. I used to take, because I had all the games, all the PlayStations and all that stuff. I would take that in. Sometimes I would take pizza. And man, I was like the man in Bellevue, because I basically had a customer in just about every store in the Bellevue area that we stayed in at the time. So I mean, whenever I wanted pizza, I got free pizza. Whenever I wanted to go to movies, I went to the movie for free. We had one that worked at a video store. I got all the latest movies and games before they even came out. I mean, I felt like the man. So I would take this stuff and share with my guys. So it was this one white guy there. His name was Randy. And me and him, we used to get into these debates. He used to get into these discussions every once in a while. So this particular day, I'll never forget, it was a Friday the 13th. And the way we worked, we was off every other weekend. So it was my weekend off as well. It was a Friday the 13th. It was Friday the 13th, 2004. And y'all don't understand now why this date is important to me. So February 13th, Friday 13th, 2004. We there at the work, and like everything was just going so good. I just felt like I was enlightened. Ever since I had that little talk with God, I just felt different. I knew it was something different about me. I still went on the right path, but I knew something was different. I didn't know what it was, but something was different. So I was in such a good mood. Like I had such a great day. I had managed to hook up this date. Set up a date with this one girl from college that I've been trying to get with for the longest. I finally had enough confidence to go into, and she accepted. So I was just like, man, God, life can get no better right now. So I went in there. I remember we were sitting around playing cards, and I was in such a good mood. I was throwing the cards all around. I was playing with the guys and joking. And I never forget this Randy guy. He came to me. He said, "Man, you're in a really good mood today." He's like, "What's going on with you?" I said, "Man, I don't know, bro." I said, "Honestly, right now I just feel enlightened." He said, "What you mean enlightened?" I said, "Enlightened." He like of God? I was like, "Yeah." He said, "Why you say that?" I said, "I don't know, man. I just feel like God want me to sell dope." And when I said that, man, he just bust out laughing. And he told, "Man, that's the dumbest leap that I ever heard in my life." He's like, "Why would you think that?" I said, "Well, man, it's simple." So I broke it down. So I said, "Look, man, yeah, I know I'm selling dope and I'm doing all these things." I said, "But look at all these kids that's work under me. When they first met me, they was dropouts. They was on their way to nothingness. Now these kids are applying to college. This one guy went from a 1.7 to a 4.0 GPA, all because they want to hang around me. You know what I'm saying? All because they want to be under me." I said, "So if me selling them these drugs is going to help them have a better life, guess what, man? I'll make a sacrifice." He said, man, look, he said, "If that's how you feel, that's how you feel. So I can't change your mind." He said, "But let me let you know something right now." He said, "God is not in there." He said, "Matter of fact, God is nowhere near that." I'm like, "Why you say that?" He said, "Because, man, you doing stuff." He said, "Yeah, you helping these kids, but you doing a whole lot of stuff that you're not supposed to be doing. You know what I'm saying? Look how you treat your girl and all these other girls that you got in the background. You know what I'm saying? Look at how you making your money. Look at all these things you're doing." He said, "Man," he said, "You think those kids are around you because you some big drug dealer, they want to be around you." He said, "But what you don't realize about yourself," he said, "man, it's something that I've seen," he said, "which is why I like to talk to you." He said, "There's a light in you." He said, "You don't even see it." He said, "You so numb to the world around you, what's going on in this world." He said, "There's a light in you that you don't even see." He said, "That's why people are attracted to you, bro." He said, "It ain't because you some big bad drug dealer." He said, "They're following you because they're following that light that they see in you that you don't even see in yourself." And it's funny that he said this. So I promise you, he said, whether you selling drugs or being a preacher, he said, no matter what you do, I guarantee you those kids will still follow you because they're not following you, John, the drug dealer. They following John that's full with this light. He said, it's that light that's in you that's attracted to you. So, of course, that's why, like, man, I was high at the time, too, because I always smoked weed before I went to work. So I'm high, like, man, you blowing my high. I don't want to hear all this philosophical, deep light stuff, all that crap. I don't care about none of that kind of thing. He said, all right, man, I understand. He said, well, we'll tell you one thing, though. He said, I'm going to leave you with this. He said, you might think that God is with you because you're helping these kids and you being charitable and all that. He said, that's all good. He said, let me tell you something about it. He said, and you might be even willing to make the sacrifice to help these kids. He said, but let me tell you something about God. He said, God likes obedience over sacrifice. And then he just left it at that. And you know what I'm saying? And to this day, that was 17 years ago, over 17 years ago, we had this statement. And I still, to this day, I remember him pointing his finger at me and looking me in my eye and saying, God likes obedience over sacrifice. And I didn't really understand what it meant. I was just like, man, whatever, man. I don't care about none of that stuff. But I didn't realize when I went home, that stuck with me for the rest of that day. That whole day I kept on thinking about obedience over sacrifice, obedience over sacrifice. You know, and he just explained to me, he said, God wants you to do what you know you're supposed to be doing, rather you do what you know you're supposed to be doing instead of making a sacrifice to do something you know you're not supposed to be doing. You know, he just broke it down, and that stuck with me, man. So eventually, you know, it was Friday. It was Friday, it was my weekend off, and I'm like, man, you know, I kind of eventually put it behind me. So it was my Friday, my weekend off. So I got off work. I went up, read up, got ready for the weekend. You know what I'm saying? Because it was payday weekend and my weekend off, and it was a Friday the 13th. So I'm like, man, we finna have a ball this weekend. Valentine's Day was Saturday. I had like 4 or 5 dates lined up for Valentine's Day, so it was gonna be a good weekend. You know what I'm saying? In my head, and it ended up being a great weekend, but not for the reason I thought. So you know what I'm saying? So I went and read up. I once again put all the money I had, you know, all the money I had saved up. I just bought drugs. I just felt like it was going to be a big weekend. You know what I'm saying? So I just went and read up, you know, left my bill money to the side, but the rest, all the free money I had, I just put it in these drugs, kind of thing. So that went on. So Saturday gets up, comes in, like I said, and I'm not just saying this to brag or to make myself seem bigger than what I am, but I had 4 dates that day. My day, it started with breakfast with my baby mama first. You know, at the time she was my baby mama, she's my wife now, and she hates when I tell this part of the story. So I'm glad I'm in my office by myself, and I'm hoping she's not looking on Facebook because she hates when I tell this part of the story. She's like, you just bragging, and I'm not bragging. I gotta tell y'all what happened. This is what led up to God calling me. So I had like 4 days that day. You know, start off with breakfast with her, and then I dropped her off, and then I had another girl I had to go pick up, hung out with her, you know, dropped her off. So in the middle of all this going on, I got all these dates set up throughout the day. Really my time was taken up. I get a call from this guy. His name is Mandrikis. Now the guy that was wanting to sell the coke, wanted me to sell coke with him, he was kind of one of his goons kind of thing, you know, and he called himself Man G, you know, and so Man G hits me up, and he tell me, and I noticed, I forgot to leave this out, for the last 2-3 weeks, Man G had been hanging out in my apartment. Now, usually, like I said, when everybody hang in my apartment, man, it was always a party. You know what I'm saying? From 24 hours a day, anytime, you can come in any time of the day and night, we was kicking it, you know? So, but man, when he was there, he was just kind of sitting in the corner watching, you know what I'm saying? He would smoke weed with us from time to time, but he never got involved in the festivities, so to speak. So that kind of caught my attention. You know, me being from Memphis, I was like, man, this dude watching me? But I was so arrogant and cocky, like, nah, he wouldn't dare try me. Like, nah, no, this is not my imagination kind of thing. So, but I noticed he had, you know, just hanging out at the place, and he was just hanging out. He wouldn't really get involved in what all he was doing, and he was just always watching kind of thing. So I'm like, man, is he watching? So I started watching him. So I'm watching him while he watched me kind of thing. So fast forward, it's February the 14th, Valentine's Day. Like I said, I got all these days. He calls me up, and he tells me, he give me the story, like, hey, man, he said, I wanted, now at the time, another piece I forgot to mention, at the time, I had legally, I had went and got a handgun permit. So I can legally carry a pistol on my side because I had a handgun carrying permit. As long as it wasn't concealed, I can carry it on my side. So I felt like, I was pretty bad. I had this chrome pistol. It was chrome. It had the handle was pearl, and all the trigger and everything was gold. So I felt I really felt like I was like, Scarface or something, man. I'm telling you, I really felt like I was doing the thing. So I knew I can buy bullets. It wasn't no issue for me buying bullets, and he knew so as well. So he hit me up. He like, man, look, I got some white people. This was Saturday. He said, I got some white people I want to rob Monday, but I can't get no bullets for my gun. He said, so I was wondering if you can go with me to buy the bullets. You know what I'm saying? So I'm thinking like, not me now. I'm like, man, it ain't no way I'm gonna buy bullets because this dude was a felon. I mean, he just, rap sheet long as my arm. I mean, he was one of those just in and out of jail all the time. You know what I'm saying? For assault, shooting people, robbing. That's what he did. He was, like I said, he was like a goon, basically. So he hit me up, and I was living so wild and crazy, I didn't even think none of it. So I'm like, yeah, come on, school me. I'm trying to be cool, trying to get in good with his boss, so to speak. I'm like, yeah, cool, man, come on, school me up. So he comes and pick me up. Now, normally, I always ride. No. I say, cool. I said, where you want to meet you at? He said, no, I'm going to come pick you up. And I'm like, all right, cool, because I had too much going on there. And plus, I wanted, my brother had a car at the house in case he needed to go somewhere because his car was down. He had this Cadillac, but it was down at the time. And I said, well, I just leave my car. I know I can leave the car for him, and he need to go out and make a sale or something while I'm out. So I put some dope in my pocket. I put my money in my pocket, and this dude came pick me up. Now, he came pick me up. It was 3 dudes in the car. It was him. He was in the back seat with me. And then one of his boys that he come over my house time to time with, he was in the front seat. And then we had the guy that was driving. And I remember I got in there, and it was just quiet. It was just eerily quiet. Now, normally when we hang out, we smoking and we laughing and joking and stuff. But nobody was saying nothing. You know what I'm saying? But when I got in that car, my spirit once again started taking over. And this time it was just loud, like again, I don't want to hear it, but it was strong, and I had this strong urge to start writing for some reason. So we get in the car, I feel a vibe in the car that it wasn't a good vibe, but I'm not even paying attention to it, and I just kind of zone out. And I had some paper, and anybody know me know I always keep paper in my pocket, and I always keep a pen in my pocket, always. And so I had this paper in my pocket, and I just took this paper out and I just started writing. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't even paying, and the thing was I wasn't thinking or paying attention to what I was writing. I just started writing, and I just started writing. I'm writing, and I zoned out. And we was living in Bellevue at the time, and the place we was going to get the bullets was over there off of not Nolensville Road, Dixon Pike. It was some kind of sporting goods store over there or whatever. So it was about a 25-minute ride, depends on traffic and all that. 25, 30-minute ride. So that whole time I was in the car, I wasn't talking to nothing. I was just writing. You know what I'm saying? I just zoned out writing. So next thing you know, the car stopped. And I mean, literally, when I wrote the last word down, the car stopped. And I kind of snapped out of it. And I looked, I'm like, where are we at? And like, oh man, we here. So, okay. And I looked down, and what I had wrote was a song. It was a song. And the name of the song, if y'all know me, y'all heard me talk about it before. But the name of the song called God's Will. And it was talking about how everything in our life happens for a reason. You know what I'm saying? The good, the bad, and the ugly, it all happens for a reason. So I'm writing this, I'm reading, so I'm looking, I was like, God's will. Now again, I hadn't been in church in about 5-6 years at this point. You know what I'm saying? So I want to know where close to God. So for me to have a song talking about God's will and how everything works out and all this stuff, basically Romans 8:28 in the song was basically what this song was. I didn't know that at the time, but that was basically what it was. And I looked at it like, that's weird. Like, what are they? I mean, I'm talking 3 verses, the chorus and everything, a full-blooded song, full song I wrote in like 25 minutes. And again, I wrote it, but I didn't write it. You know what I'm saying? And my spirit just, I don't know, it prompted me to write this stuff down. So when I read, I looked at it, that's weird. And then the guy said, we here. I said, all right. So I didn't think nothing of it. I just folded it up, threw it in my pocket. I went into the store. So I get into the store. I go to the counter. I never forget, I asked for some 22 bullets. The guy, I walked to the counter, and there was the guy that was in there was an older white guy, tall. I never forget, had like gray hair. And he kind of looked at me weird when I first walked in, and I didn't think none of it. So I went in there, and he was like, what can I do for you? I said, man, I need a box of 22 bullets and something else I asked for. I can't remember the detail, but I remember the 22 bullets. And he said, oh, no, I can't do that for you. I like, what do you mean? He said, no, I don't think I'm going to sell you anything today. And I'm like, what do you mean you ain't going to sell me anything today? I said, man, here go my license, because I had my gun permit with me. You know what I'm saying? I said, here go my license, here go my gun permit. I said, here go the money, man. Just give me a darn, I ain't say darn. I said, but you give me a darn bullet. And he's like, no, sir, I'm not selling you anything. And I'm like, man, what is the deal? So I'm thinking, he just being racist, because it looked like he just stereotyped me as soon as I walked in from the get-go. So I'm thinking he just being racist. So I started like cursing this dude out. Again, show you how far away from God I was. I started cursing this dude out. You racist, blah, blah, blah. He said, you got about 3 seconds to get out of the store before I call the police. Now again, I had dope in my pocket. I had money in my pocket. I ain't no telling what the guys in the car had, because I knew how they rolled, you know what I'm saying? And probably guns and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't want that to happen. I was like, all right, fine, I'll leave. So I'm pissed. I'm steaming. I just took a whole time out of my day, missed one of my dates because I came over to do this and I can't even do it. And the guy, he didn't even ask me to fill out no papers. He didn't ask me nothing. He just said no, saw me and immediately rejected me. So I get back out to the car. The guy like, man, where the bullets at? I said, I couldn't get them. He's like, what do you mean you just didn't buy? I said, no, bro, I couldn't get them. He's like, what do you mean couldn't get them? I said, man, the dude wouldn't sell them to me. He said, man, you lying. I mean, this dude got pissed. Like, I couldn't understand why he got up so upset. And I'm like, look, bro, I came here with you. I tried to go get them. The guy wouldn't sell them to me. So just take me back home. He's like, no, bro, I think you lying, bro. You got a handgun for me. There's no reason why you shouldn't get them bullets. I said, look here, bro. I don't know why the dude didn't sell me the bullets. I guess he being racist or whatever. I said, but you need to take me back home before I get upset. You know what I'm saying? And he didn't know if I had my pistol on me or not, because I did conceal it even though I wasn't supposed to. And he didn't know if I had my pistol on me or not, and they didn't want to try me. You know what I'm saying? So he's like, all right, man, fine. So they dropped me back off, and I didn't think nothing of it. So because I did that, I ended up missing one of my dates, like I said. And it was with the girl that I really was looking forward to going out with. So I hit her up. I was like, look, I had some stuff come up today, kind of messed up my time. I said, could we possibly go out tomorrow? You know what I'm saying? Tomorrow night, which would be Sunday. So she's like, fine, that'll work out better for me anyway. So I'm like, cool. So now it's Sunday night. And excuse me, I'm sorry. I apologize for that. So now it's Sunday night. It's February the 15th. Again, 2004. Never forget it. Never forget these days. So it was a Sunday night, February 15, 2004. You know, I got girl coming over. So this time, this girl, she was a college girl, you know, so she's just a really good girl. And I was really trying to hopefully do something inappropriate with her. I'll get into the details. I'll leave it up to y'all imagination. But I was really trying to do something strange for a little piece of change, you know what I mean? So, you know, so I wanted the house clear because I knew she was the type of girl she was. She wasn't going to go for having a million dudes in the house and still messing around. It was some girls that go for that, but I knew she wasn't going to be one of them. So I told my crew, look, I need y'all to clear out tonight. I said, this is one night I need the house to myself. I said, you know, one of my guys, he stayed upstairs. I said, y'all go up to old apartment, take the phone with you. So if anybody call and they need anything, you can take it, you can get it to them. I said, but I don't want y'all interrupting me. I said, I got this girl coming over and I want the house to myself. I said, you know, so don't interrupt me. So you're like, all right, fine. So everybody know we got the house cleaned up. I got dressed and they left. So the girl came over and we hanging out, you know, we talking. And man, we just really had a good we just vibe. We just had a really good conversation. It really did have a lot in common. And, you know, and really did end up like, you know, realize we like each other kind of toward the end. So it was around 9 o'clock. I never forget. She said, no, we finally got to her and I tried to make my move kind of thing. She said, look, she stopped me in my track. She said, look, I knew that you had some ulterior motives kind of thing. He said, I'm not like that. She said, but she said, you really cool guys. Like I didn't, you know, she said, I've been, you know, kind of checking you out and I don't know what to think about. She's like, but you're a really cool guy. She said, I really do see myself going out with you. So she said, I tell you what, why don't we schedule a real date 2 weeks from now? Because while we was talking and stuff, we had the TV going on and it was some movie coming out. And I remember saying like, man, I would love to see this. She said, me too. So she brought that back up. She said, why don't we go when that movie come out in a couple of weeks? Why don't we go see that together? And I like that. So she said, I'm getting ready to head out. She said, I can't lie to you. She said, I knew you were going to try to do something. So I told my sister to call me around 9 o'clock so I won't have an excuse for me to leave. You know, so she had that all set up. And that's when her sister called. That's when she kind of put the brakes on everything. So she had this set up, but I didn't feel bad. She was honest with me. So I was like, fine. So she left. So for the first time in probably forever that I can think of, I had the house to myself. So I'm like, man, I got the house to myself. I told my boys it was 9, so I told them not to come back till around 11. So I'm like, man, I got the house to myself. Like, what am I going to do with all this free time? And again, I heard that voice. I didn't hear the voice, but my spirit talked to me like, hey, why don't you work on this song from yesterday? I said, yeah, because that's weird. I never wrote a song before. Let me work on this song. So I sit down. First, I sit at my table where I normally break my drugs down there. And first I rolled me a fatty because I had to get some inspiration. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, man, I'm going to roll me a fatty and I'm going to work on this song. So I rolled me up a fat one and I smoked. I'm going to get about halfway through. I'm like, all right, now I'm ready. So I put the song out. Now, remember, I wrote this song, well, my hand wrote the song, I guess I should say, just the day before. But I didn't really read it. Like I said, it just poured out of me. I can't explain to you where it came from other than the Spirit gave it to me. That's all I can say. I'm not saying I'm a man of God and should be in the Bible none, but the Spirit gave it to me. Because the way what the song is talking about and the whole way is set up and the way of thinking was not a way of thinking I had at that time, because I hadn't been in relation with God in the last 5-6 years since I had really been in church, you know. So, and it was taught. So I'm reading through this song that I wrote. And it's talking about how, you know, everything happens for a reason and God put you through the bad so you can be good. And it just had all this stuff. I'm like, man, where's it coming from? But I'm reading it. And I know all you people are probably good, upstanding citizens. But if you're not and you have smoked marijuana before, then you'll know that when you smoke marijuana, everything just intensifies. Like, you know, you smoke marijuana, you listen to your one of your favorite songs, it's even that much better. Like everything just, I don't know, it's more intense. So I'm reading these words that I wrote and things are just getting more intense. And I'm like, man, so next thing you know, I get about halfway through the song, there's a line in that song where I was talking about me selling drugs. And with the way it was worded, I just wanted to switch it around a little bit. So I'm like, man, let me change this line. So as I'm reading through this song, like I said, before I got to this line, I'm reading through the song, my heart just started beating, you know, and I just started getting like my eyes started watering up a little bit, but still I'm high, so I'm not really paying attention to it. So I get to this line in the song and I got my pen, you know, so the song paper right there, this is paper, it's right there. So I got my pen, I'm reading the song and I get to the line in the song and I got my pen and I went to change the line. So I went to change the line. At first, I put in a little pressure on the pen, but the pen wouldn't move. I mean, my hand was just like this, and the pen would move. Now, of course, my first thought, my worldly thought was like, man, this is some good weed. Like, man, this is so good. I'm stuck. I can't even write right now. You know what I'm saying? So that was my first thought. But I'm like, nah, you know, so I'm like, and I go put some more pressure on the pen. but the pen still will move. So I'm sitting here full on struggling with this pen, and this pen is just suspended in midair, and my arm and my hand would not move. Like, so next thing you know, when that happened, I finally realized, like, okay, this pen ain't moving. No matter how much pressure I put on it, it's not moving. I know I'm not that high. And right when I had that thought, next thing you know, my heart just started pounding. I mean, it felt like it was about to jump out of my chest. And next thing you know, tears just started running down my face. And then I just got these chills all over my body. And it was like intense. Like it started like, it felt like somebody had just kind of rubbed their head across the top of my head. And it was just like intense. And all of a sudden this sensation went from the top of my head down to my feet and back up. And it just, I mean, it was just intense. And I was like, man, I was freaking out. I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, man, what did they do? This weed? Am I dying? Like, I had no clue what was going on at that moment, but I had these chills just all over my body. And then finally, my heart spoke to me, and it was very clear. Again, didn't hear a voice, but it was like my conscience, it finally took over. Got tired of my flesh running thing, and it finally took over, and it wanted to have his voice. And so I'm sitting there, I'm freaking out. I'm thinking I'm dying. I'm crying for whatever reason. My heart is pounding, so I'm thinking I'm having a heart attack. And I have no clue what's going on. And then my heart finally said, you know, remember a few weeks ago? No, again, I didn't hear a voice. This is just like I was having this inner dialogue kind of thing, I guess you could say. So I didn't hear a voice, but some of my heart, like, you remember you said, told God that he need to show up and show you that it's real. He said, well, you guess what? You know that sensation that you have, that chill you feeling? He said, that's God's presence right there. He said, so if you got something you need to say to God, then you need to go and get off your chest. So I'm like, oh, what, God is in here? Oh, yeah, I definitely got something to say. So I threw the pen down. Finally, my hand released the pen. I threw the pen down. And the first words out of my mouth that I said to God, I said, man, F you, God. I said, man, F you, man. Like, you see what's been going on in my life. You see what's out there. I got had sex, molested by 2 different men in my life. You know what I'm saying? Women. I said, I never had a chance to be pure or be a virgin. I never got that chance because it was taken away from me about grown individuals in my lifetime. I said, man, I was poor. I had to wear my uncle's hand-me-down clothes. My mom was on crack. She, you know, seen her being beat. And I just went through all the stuff that I talked to y'all about in the beginning. That's why I wanted to make sure y'all understood it. All the stuff I talked to y'all about in the beginning of the testimony. If y'all didn't catch that, please go back and you'll understand a little bit more. I just went down this laundry list. I had this laundry list of things and wrongs that I felt God had done to me over my lifetime because of all the stuff I had been through and all the things I had experienced. So I just had this big old long list of wrongs and things that I wanted to get on God about, so to speak. So, excuse me. So I go down this list. You know, I'm doing my best to tell God off, so to speak. And I'm like, well, you hear, I got some stuff today. And I'm telling, and I'm huffing, and I'm puffing, and I'm crying, and I'm going down this laundry list of things, the wrongs that I think God did to me. And I'm just, speaking my mind. So finally, this goes on about a good 15, 20 minutes. And I found I got it all on my chest. And I'm huffing, and I'm puffing, and I'm sitting there, and I never forget, I'm crying. I still got the chills. The whole time this is going on, I got these chills all over my body, the entire time. So I'm crying, and I'm huffing, I'm puffing, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, yeah, I told God off. And then again, I didn't hear a voice, but it was just like I was having this inner dialogue, and my spirit was just like, okay, you upset. He said, I can tell you upset. He said, honestly, when I look at your life, you got every reason to be upset. He said, you've been through some stuff. He said, I admit that. He said, only thing is, I do want to ask you one thing. And I was like, what's that? He said, what have you ever done for me? And you see how quiet it got? That's how everything just came to a screeching halt when he asked that question. Because I just never thought about it. You know what I'm saying? It just hit me like a blow to the chest. It was just like, ooh. You know, I was like, what do you mean? And then I was like, what do you mean? He said, very simple. What have you ever done for me? He said, look at the way you living. You selling drugs. He said, yeah, you selling drugs. Yeah, you working 2, 3 jobs. You know what I'm saying? You selling drugs. Hold on, y'all. I'm getting sorry. He said, yeah, you working 2, 3 jobs, selling drugs. Yeah, you taking care of all these people. He said, but what are you doing for me? He said, let me ask you something. He said, you supposed to be a Christian. He said, you supposed to be saved. You supposed to be a Christian. He said, when the last time you told somebody about me? And when I thought about it, I said, never. He said, exactly. He said, I'm telling you something. He said, you supposed to be faith and trust in me. He said, you working all these jobs and selling this dope so you can get all this money. He said, when the last time you got on your knees and asked me for anything? And when I thought about it, I said, never. He said, exactly. He said, you doing all these selling drugs and all doing all this stuff, making all this money. He said, but what are you making? Are you doing it to build my kingdom? Or are you doing it for yourself? Are you doing it so you can make these other little kids think you somebody important, so you can feel big and bad, so you can puff up your chest and let your pride fulfill your own pride? And he said, what are you doing for me? And I thought about it. I've never asked God. Now, really, it hit me that I had never sat and asked God for anything. I never asked God to take me out of any situation. I've always did it on my own. I always thought that I had to do it on my own, and I always did it for myself. And that's why I felt that I was this big, my pride had swelled up, because I felt like I've always taken care of myself, and I've never had to ask anybody for anything. I used to say that, man, I ain't never had to ask nobody for anything. Well, guess what? Because of that, my pride had swelled up, and not only did I not ask any people for anything, I didn't realize I never asked God for anything as well. And what's the Bible say? Asking, you shall receive. You know what I'm saying? A knock and this door shall be opened up to you. You know what I'm saying? And I realized in that moment that I've never asked God for anything. And this whole time I've been living for myself. And when I came to that realization, the Spirit said, now you got it. So because before that moment, I always felt that I was cursed. Before that moment right there, I felt that I was cursed. Because even when I was hustling, things would go good and things would go bad too. I've had people steal dope from me. I've had people jip me out of dope. I mean, give people credit, they never come back and pay you. So I had ups and downs in the dope game. It was more ups than downs, but there was still some downs too. And I've always felt my whole life that like no matter what I did, I could never get ahead. So I always felt like I get up 2 steps ahead and get pushed 5 steps back. Every single time, and I always felt like God was just picking on me. My life was so bad, and I had been through so much. I just always felt like God was picking on me. So I felt cursed, and that's what the Spirit said. The reason why you feel like that is because you've been living your life for yourself and not for God. He said, why you think God pay? And then it's like, I forgot to mention this, when I first started feeling the chills coming on my body, before I even started talking to God, I forgot to mention this. I had like one of those near-death experiences. Have you ever heard people say, well, my life flashed before my eyes? That happened. I forgot to mention that because that's crucial. Because what happened was my life flashed before my eyes. And I was like, okay, I seen that. I've lived it. I know. But it's like it rewound it. That was the first time. I never heard anybody say that. But it's like it rewound it. And then my life went again, but God showed me how he had been with me the entire time. Because, I've had a gun put in my face 3 or 4 times, never been shot. You know what I'm saying? I had my mama would leave us in random houses, random people. I always made it back home safely. You know what I'm saying? The time I did get molested, it was by actual family members that lived with us. It wasn't because I was, in some strange house or some strange place. You know what I'm saying? There have been times, 2, 3 in the morning, we wake up and we in a crack house somewhere, no clue where my mom at. And me and my brother got to make it home through terrible North Memphis. You know what I'm saying? So all those times, the reason why I made God show me, the reason why I was still standing, the reason why I was here, because he's been there with me the whole time. I had left him. He had never left me. And man, when that hit me, man, the shame and regret that came over me was just like, it was unreal. And I started realizing that this whole time, it wasn't that God had left me, I had left him, and I didn't have his grace on my life. That's why my life was going the direction that it was in. But he told me, he said, now that you realize it, what you going to do about it? So he said, I tell you what, you got a choice to make. He said, you can keep doing what you're doing and you'll be dead by tomorrow, or you can start serving me and I can use you to bring others to me. So of course I was like, whoa, what do you mean dead by tomorrow? He said, simple. He said, you know how when you went to buy those bullets yesterday? He said, you know why you couldn't buy those bullets? I said, no. He said, because what you didn't know was those guys were planning on robbing you and killing you. That's why they wanted you to go by yourself. That's why they wanted you to ride. That's why they wasn't talking to you the whole time. Because they had in their mind they're going to rob you and kill you. They wanted to get you away from your crew because they knew your brother and all the others at the house. So they figured if they got you by yourself that you it'd be an easier target. And they knew you were going to have money in your pocket because you always do. They knew you were going to have dope on you because you always do. And they was planning on robbing you and leaving you out in the woods dead. He said, but I wanted to give you one more chance to make the right decision. He said, so you can keep doing what you're doing and you'll be dead by tomorrow, or you can start serving me and I can use to bring others. He said, because when they said that they're going to rob these white people Monday, he said, they're not planning on robbing some white people Monday. They plan on robbing you Monday. He said, but they just figured they'll try you first to get you by yourself. But if it don't work, which it didn't, then they was planning on running to your house and they were going to kill everybody in your house, including you. So what you going to do? Now, of course, that was 17 years ago, and I'm here talking to y'all now, so y'all know what happened. But a lot of other stuff happened in that conversation. It'll take me a whole nother hour to talk about everything that went on in that conversation. But basically, God showed me that everything I had been through, and he told me, he said, the reason why, he explained, the one thing I'll tell you about, he explained to me, he said, the reason why I had you go through what you go through, the reason why I had you go through so much is because I was preparing you for the work that you're here to do. He said, you are here to gather my lost sheep. And actually, that's why this is called the Lost Sheep Ministry. That's what God told me. You are here to gather my lost sheep. And I think it's funny that the verse talking about lost sheep is in the book of John 10:16. I'm John, so that's a whole other thing. But he told me, he said, you are here to gather my lost sheep. He said, but the problem is you can't go and gather the lost sheep if you haven't been through what they've been through, if you haven't experienced somewhat what they have experienced, then there's no way you're going to be able to relate to them. We always got this statement that people say, real recognize real. And that is so true. He said, so now because of what you've been through, because of the thing you've experienced, now you can go through those people that's going through drug abuse and tell them, hey, I know, been there, done that. He said, now you can go to people that's been molested and tell them, hey, I've been there, I've done that. And this is how you can make it through. He said they will listen to you because they'll realize when they're talking to you, what you're saying is from your heart and from your experience. It's not just something you was taught. It's something that you live. He said, and you had to have this. I did not. He said, it hurt me every moment that you was going through that, but you had to become the person that you are. So now you got to choose, do you want to become that person? Do you want to stay this person that you is now, or do you want to become this new creation that I can use to bring a whole lot of other people out in the world just like you to me? Because it's about that time for me to gather my lost sheep. He said, I want you to do it. You know what I'm saying? So he said, make your decision. And of course, y'all know the decision that we made. But of course, I'm just like Gideon. You know what I'm saying? I'm like Gideon. Because again, I told y'all this happened on the 15th. Well, guess what? The 17th is when I accepted. Why? Because I'm just like Gideon. I'm like, well, if that's the case, then God, you're going to have to do some things. So I gave some things. I said, well, to prove to me that this is real, and that you're really calling me to do your purpose, I want you to do this, do this, do this. And I gave God some tasks, kind of like what Gideon did with the fleece or whatever. So, the conversation ended. And again, I ain't going to get into all the details. But the conversation ended. And when it ended, let me tell y'all this, and this is what let me know it was real. So when it ended, I was sitting there and I was just stuck. And I was just like, I literally felt like I had just saw a ghost, and I was sitting there and I was shaking and I was just stuck. And I didn't even move. The entire time till my boys finally came in. So 11 o'clock, my boys came in and I'm sitting at the table and I just got this look in my eyes like this, like I had seen a ghost. So they walk in, they all laughing and joking. They had no clue what's going on. And they came around the corner like, man, you all right? I said, no. They said, what's wrong? I said, man, I just talked to God. And they just bust out laughing like, boy, you steal it. And one thing that I had did, like, because I told you I would never touch coke, but some I had did. I didn't do it often, but I did do it a couple of times. We smoked what we call heavy Chevys, which is marijuana with cocaine sprinkled on top of it. And I actually did that a couple of times. I didn't, like I said, it was maybe 2 or 3 at the most, but you know what I'm saying? And the board, they had actually rolled up one before they left because we was actually planning on smoking one when they got back, and they had rolled up before they left. So they're like, oh man, you see, like, you must have hit the heavy before while we was gone. I said, no, bro, like, I'm dead serious. They're like, for real? I said, yeah. I said, matter of fact, I'm gonna tell y'all what. I said, here you go. Now, when I bought my pounds of weed, like I said, I just bought regular weed. I didn't get dro. So there was always about an ounce of shake in the bag or whatnot when I bought my pounds. So when I did that, when I bought the pounds of weed, I always got the ounce of shake. And most people don't like the shake, and most dealers stay away from the shake. Well, me, I love the shake. You know what I'm saying? Like, because, what I would do, I would get at least an ounce, depending on how good it was, I would get an ounce or 2 of shake. So what I would do, I would just keep the ounce or 2 of shake for myself to smoke, and I would sell all the buds. And that's how I made my money without dipping into my profits, because I just smoked the shake because people didn't like to buy it anyway. So I had an ounce of shake sitting on the table that I had just rolled out of, and I gave it to my boys, and I always bought my cigars by the box. So I gave them an ounce of shake, and I gave them cigars. I said, man, I want y'all to roll all of these cigars, and roll that weed, all these cigars, we need to talk. And they still had no clue what was going on. They said, all right. So after I gave them that, I got up from the table. I said, just let me know when y'all done. I went to my room, and for the first time, I got down on my knees, and I went to God with my whole heart. And the first thing I said to God then was, I'm sorry. So for like about 30, 40 minutes, man, I was just on my knees saying I'm sorry. And I was just apologizing to God for everything that I had done. You know what I'm saying? Anything that I could think of that I had done, I was apologizing to God. I'm sorry for all the way I behaved. I'm sorry for not believing in you. Sorry for my lack of faith. Sorry for all the women I've been caroused with. I mean, just anything that I can think of. Matter of fact, that confession letter I had wrote a few weeks back, it was basically the same thing. But this time, instead of just writing it down on a piece of paper, I was telling God himself. And I was just like, I'm sorry. So I just did that. That just went on for like 20, 30 minutes. So finally, my brother knocked on my door, and I was like, what's up? He said, hey, man, you all right? I said, yeah. He was like, what's going on? He said, hey, we done? I said, all right. I said, tell them to go ahead and blaze up. I'll be up there in a second. So I finished up my prayer to God. I said, let me go talk to them and let them know where I'm at, Lord. So I got I went to the kitchen first. I grabbed a garbage bag, and I went to my closet, and everything I had in my closet that was drug related, drug paraphernalia, drug, all that, I put it in this plastic bag, and I tied a knot in it. So I took it up front. My boys, they were sitting in the living room, and again, they still have no clue what's going on. They laughing and joking like we always did. You know, they had started smoking, and I told them, hey, man, look, I said, I need y'all, and I kind of organized them to where they were kind of in like a horseshoe almost, like in an arena. And I said, man, move the furniture around. I need y'all to sit. I said, man, y'all go ahead and smoke. I said, the weed is for y'all. I said, I'm not going to partake in it. I just want y'all to listen to me. So they're like, all right, what's up? So it was at this time, it was about 11:30 that night, 11:30, right before 12. So I sit them down, and from, let's say, 11:30, 11:45 at night to 7:30 in the morning, I preached for almost 8 hours straight, y'all. And it was so crazy, because I'm telling y'all this now because it's been years and I'm a little bit more calm. But, man, I was just going, oh, and God said this, and God showed me this, and God showed me this. And I was just like, man, if you would thought I had hit some coke or something, because it was because I felt the power of God. I truly knew, you know, so this whole time in my life, I've been thinking maybe there's no God kind of thing. But after that happened that night, after I had the experience, I knew without a doubt that God was real. 200%. I knew that God was real. You know what I'm saying? That night. So I'm preaching and I'm going, and this goes on for like almost 8 hours. Y'all think I'm long-winded now. That was my first long-winded sermon. Almost 8 hours. You know, so this go on. A couple of them dozed off, and I had to wake them back up. And you know what I'm saying? So finally, 7:30 in the morning, you know, so I'm done, and I'm huffing and puffing. And my boy, they eyes like they don't know what's going on. Because when they left, I was a drug dealer. And now they come back, and I'm talking about God. And the crazy part was, you know what I'm saying, I was like quoting the Bible. I hadn't read my Bible in years, y'all. But I'm getting them Bible quotes, and I never read it enough to where I can quote it. But it was just flowing out of me. And what I realized was, God, the Bible said God's word never returns void. So if you've ever been in a church service, you ever heard the word of God, it's in there. But we just, because we get the distraction of the world, we push it down. We say our business and our making money and everything else is more important than His word. So we push it to the back. We put it on the back burner. Well, this night it came to the front. It was on the main outer stove. So man, I'm pouring this out, and they look at me like, man. So when I finally finish, like, are you for real about this? I like, man, I'm dead serious. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna show y'all how serious I am. Now the guy that was he was kind of I was grooming him up because he was from Arkansas. We called him O, and he was from Arkansas, and he was actually a college student, and he did some stuff. I didn't know how bad he was doing, but he wasn't doing good at school, and he ended up getting to the point where he's like, man, I'm done with the school stuff. I'm moving back out. You know what I'm saying? So he was going to move back to Arkansas. So he like, but man, he said, I've been watching you and, you know what I'm saying, all that you've been doing. He's out like your operation. He said, so I like to set up something like that when I go back to Arkansas. Can you hook me up? And can you get me in touch with your connection and all that? So I had told him, this happened like 2-3 weeks before. I had told him like, yeah, you know what I'm saying, I can go ahead and you know, hook you up with and show you the ropes of the game or whatever. So he was there. And I'll never forget, I told him to come up front. I said, come up front. He like, what's up, man? So I grabbed that trash bag I had. I said, look, bro, I know I promised you that I would, you know, put you on game and help you get into the game and all that. I said, but I can no longer do, I hate to tell you, I can no longer do that. He like, why not? I said, man, because I promised God I'll never do this again. I said, but I tell you what, I said, I'm going to help you get ahead by doing this way. And I put that garbage bag out. And I put it out. He said, man, what's that? I said, man, this is all the drugs I have on me right now. I said, I don't know how many pounds of weed in there. There's some pills in there, ecstasy pills, mushroom. I like the scales, everything that I have, the drug related is in this bag. And guess what, bro? You can have it. You know, so initially he just thought it was some kind of test or something. He kind of went back like, man, I can have it. I said, yeah, you can have it. For what? I said, bro, because I'm done with this life. I said, I promise God. I said, man, I just realized how long I've been living for all this time, and I promise God I never do this again. I said, so you can have it. You can sell it, you can smoke it, you can give it away. I said, honestly, you can shove it up your butt for all I care. I said, but don't bring me. I said, no matter what you do with it, I don't want you to bring me one single dime from it, because I just promised God I'll never have anything to do with this life again. So when I said that, I put it back out there again, and that time when I put it back out, he kind of reached up slowly and he grabbed it. And when he grabbed it, I let it go. Like I opened my hand up and let it go. And y'all, the Bible talks about a peace that passes all understanding. I cannot explain to y'all the peace that I felt that came over me when I let that go. It was like I was really letting go the sins of this world that I've been holding on to all this time. I really just let it go. And when I let it go, man, this peace came over me, man. And when I let it go, my boys realized that I was serious, because I didn't play about my money and my drug. And when they saw that I was serious, they said, how can we know God like that? I said, let me tell you. So for 3 days straight, y'all, I didn't eat, I didn't sleep, I didn't do anything. I didn't drink. I don't even think I drank any water for 3 days straight. I preached for 3 days straight. And the reason why I was able to do that, because I told like I said, now, like, I'm not reneging on what I just told you. This drugs is yours. I said, but do me a favor. I said, just for the next few days, man, this is how I'm going to help you get in touch with my clientele and build up your clientele. I said, hang out in my apartment for the next few days, and anytime anybody come by for something or they call for something, let them know and see what they want, and then tell them they can have it for free if they listen to me preach. So, of course, you're like, all right, because he ain't paid no money for it, so, what did you got to lose? So that's what we did. Like, any of my customers come by, they be like, hey, let me get a dub. And you're like, man, you can get that dub for free, listen to John preach. And they like, John preach? Like, yeah. So that's what I did. Excuse me, y'all, sorry. For the next 3 days, I preached to all of my customers. You know what I'm saying? I had some guys that, like I said, meth had just started coming out. So I had a couple of these guys that was on meth real bad, and I preached to them. You know what I'm saying? And long story short, they end up changing their life later on down the road. Successful guys right now. But I preached to them, and that's what I did for the next 3 days, and that's how I preached for 3 days straight. And honestly, the only reason I finally stopped on before the 4th day, like, I talked so much and so long that I literally lost my voice. Like, I could not do nothing but whisper. Like I was trying to talk to people, and it was just like, that was as loud as it can get, because I had talked for 3 days straight. No eating, no sleeping, or nothing. So when I finally got to that point, of course, I wasn't effective. So I was like, well, maybe I need to finally give me something to eat and kind of recoup. And I got something to eat, and I laid down and took me a nap. And when I woke back up, my voice was back. And that's when that was a Thursday, because it was on a Monday, kind of Monday morning. So that Thursday, when my voice came back, was the first time I had to go pay bills and stuff. And that was the first time I went out and started telling people about God. And of course, all I can show my testimony. I still didn't know how to lead people to the Lord or talk about the gospel, but I was just telling people what had happened to me, how 4 days later I was a drug dealer, and now I'm preaching and I'm serving the Lord, kind of thing. So that's what happened. So I'm going to tell y'all this last part. I'm finishing up because it already went way longer than I wanted to. But again, this is my story, and it's really hard for me to cut any of it short because it's so important. So the last thing that happened, what made me finally make the decision, let's go back to Monday. Like I said, I spent the whole day Monday preaching that whole day. And normally I always made sure my door was locked, because I didn't want nobody to come in and rob us or whatnot, because I knew how shady people were, especially like drug people. But that day, I didn't care. I wanted people to come in, because like I said, I just felt the power of God on me so strong that I wanted people to come in, because anybody that came in my house that day, they got preached to, and that was just bottom line. So that day, I'm preaching, and usually I kind of shut down business around 10:30, 11 anyway. People start coming through a calling, because I didn't do that overnight stuff. Unless it was somebody that I was real familiar with, that I do a favor for the most part, regular customers, you don't come to my house after 10 o'clock kind of thing. So I had preached, and it was about 10:30. Finally, everything had wound down. I had been preaching the whole day, you know what I'm saying? So now it was just me and my boys at the house, and we were sitting in my bedroom, and I was still preaching. I'm just telling them all this stuff that God had revealed to me, and everything that's about to come to fruition, and everything about to happen. I'm just preaching. So about 10:30, 11 o'clock, I heard the front door open. Now, all my boys is back there in the room with me. So I'm like, who is this coming in my house? So I'm like, nobody had called the phone. I wasn't expecting anybody to come by. Who is this that just come in my house? And like, why is the door unlocked? But again, I was like, whatever. Whoever it is, I see them when they get here, because I was just preaching. So I'm going off. I'm talking, the spirits on me. I got chills on me everywhere, so I'm going on. And next thing you know, I heard 2 sets of footsteps, because I'm preaching to them, but my instinct's like, there's 2 people just walked in your house, like, and they didn't cut on no lights or nothing, so they stayed in the dark, because all the lights and stuff was off for front. So I'm like, what is going on? But I'm like, all right, I just see them when they get here. So again, I heard 2 sets of footsteps come down the hallway. So finally, I heard the footsteps right outside my bedroom door. And you know what I'm saying? So as soon as I heard the footsteps outside my door, I look up to the door, and when I look up, it was two guys in ski masks. One of them had a 12-gauge shotgun, and the other one had a 22 pistol. And they aimed them both at me, and they looked at me in my eyes, and they had the gun pointed at me, and they said, "Lay it down, nigga." So I'm looking at them. I look at them. I got the Spirit of God in me. I look at them and say, "Man, nigga, I already know who y'all is. Just sit down somewhere." And I just went back to preaching like they weren't even standing there. So they standing in the doorway with guns, drawn, and they looking at each other like, what the hell is going on? And the reason why it was so shocking to them, because nobody moved. The Spirit of God was on me, was so strong that even though these two dudes just walked in with ski masks and guns on, my boys, they didn't even look at these dudes. Nobody looked. It's like I was the only one that saw them almost. It was crazy. They didn't even look at the dude. They were just so enthralled by what the words that was flowing out of me, the words of God that was flowing out of me. That's all they cared about. They didn't even care about the fact that two dudes just walked in with guns. So they sitting there with the guns, and they looking at each other like, what's really going on? So after a few seconds, it got awkward. So they were like, oh, man, we just playing, and took off the ski mask, and guess who it was? It was the dude that asked me to go buy the bullets, Man G. It was him and his friend that was sitting in the front seat. His friend had the 12-gauge shotgun, and Man G had the 22 pistol. You know what I'm saying? So Man stuck the pistol in his back in his pants, like, stuck it back in his pants. And the other guy had the shotgun. He just kind of put it up against the wall. And then they just both kind of like eased on the bed. And they were looking at each other like, what is going on? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, is this real? It was like almost in a Twilight Zone kind of thing. Like, is this really real kind of thing? So I just kept on preaching like nothing happened. So I wait for like another 15, 20 minutes, let things kind of de-escalate. And then I like, hey, bro, I said, hey, boys, y'all go up front for a minute. I need to talk to Man G. And he said, let me talk to Man G right quick. So they're like, all right. So everybody got up front and went. And I told Man G, I said, man, come to me in my brother room. Come meet me in my brother room right quick. So I went into my brother room, and this is the one thing I did. I asked God, for a test. Now, Man G, he had the 22 pistol in his pants. I still knew he had that on him. So as we walked into the room, I kind of said this quick prayer to God. I said, all right. I said, I'm going to put you to test right now. I said, you know what I'm saying? I said, I'm going to put you to test right now. I said, I know he still got this pistol. I know he's still planning on robbing me. You know what I'm saying? Want to kill me or whatnot. I said, so I'm going to put my life in your hand. I'm not going to take my pistol in here. I'm not going to even do nothing to defend myself. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to confront this guy about coming in here with his gun, and whatever happened to me happened. I said, so if I die, then I know that I really ain't got to work for you to do. But if I don't die, then I know that I guess I do got to work for you to do for you. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to put it completely in your hand. So we went into the room, and I locked the door behind me, and I actually stood in front of the door to keep anybody from coming in. So then we, talk for a little while, then we sit down in the bed, I took one of the blunts that we still had from earlier. I took it in with him, and me and him sit on the bed, and we started, smoking. Now, I actually wasn't really smoking, like I was, I was kind of puffing on it and just blowing the smoke out, but I wasn't actually inhaling. I just wanted him to be kind of relaxed, because he still was kind of freaking out. He still didn't, I can tell he didn't know what was going on or what to expect. So we go through a couple of times, like, the rotation puff or pass, you know how I go. So about halfway through it, I fake hit it, and I blew the smoke out, and I gave it to him, and I handed it to him like this, and I looked in the eyes as he grabbed it, and I said, hey, bro, oh, by the way, I forgive you. And he said, for what? I said, man, I forgive you. He said, for what? I said, man, I know when y'all came in here, you was really intending on robbing me and killing me. I said, but don't worry about it, bro. I forgive you for it. So when I said that, he jumped and said, no, bro, I wouldn't do you like that, man. We were just playing. You know what I'm saying? Like, blah, blah, blah. So he started clapping his hands and getting all loud. And I said, man, shh. I said, calm down, bro. I said, I brought you in this room by yourself for a reason. I said, this is a man-on-man thing. This is on between me and you. We don't need to get our crews involved and nobody else involved. This is between me and you. I said, but man, I said, think about it, bro. Like, who comes to somebody's house at 11 o'clock at night with ski masks and guns out playing? I said, what if I would have had my pistol out and y'all got shot? What if I didn't know it was you? I said, what would have happened then? I said, man, so I know you weren't playing, bro. I said, but I forgive you. So he said, no, man, you got me effed up. So then when I said that, he went like he was going to hit me, right? So he's standing there, and I guess y'all can see the fist. So he's standing there with his fist up. And at this point, we had both got up. Like I said, he jumped up and started getting irate. So we had both got up. Again, I had my back to the door just in case the boys heard him. I didn't want them coming in because I wanted this between me and him. I really wanted to see what God was going to do with this situation. So I had my back to the door, and I just had my hands out like this. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like standing like this, like, what you gonna do? You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna even defend myself. What you gonna do? So I got my hands out like this, and he's standing there with his hand like this, like he ready to hit me, and we both just looking at each other eye to eye. I'm talking like right in each other's face. So he's got there, she's there, and we stood about 30 seconds, and I remember, now I had already embraced for impact. You know what I'm saying? I like, man, I know this nigga about to hit me. So I had already embraced the impact, and I'm standing there, and he never did swing. And he just standing there, and he got this look on his face like he want to hit me, but he can't. He just like just this mad, really mad look on his face. And I remember looking at him like, man, this nigga gonna hit me or what? That's what I'm thinking to myself. But he never did swing. And then next thing I noticed, his fist was kind of like shaking. It was like this shaking. And then next thing you know, man, he just dropped his arms and he just started crying. I'm talking about like a baby. He just dropped his arms and he started crying, and he threw his arms around my shoulders, and he just started saying, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And I was like, you know, it was weird because, I mean, this is a gangster. I'm talking, this dude got tattoos on his neck and his face and had shot people I don't know how many times. I mean, it was insane. So he was just going to start saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And I'm like, man, what you sorry for? He said, man, we would come to rob you, bro, but we won't kill you. I said, bro, I'm from North Memphis. I said, you think this is the first time I had a gun in my face? I said, what was you going to do if I resisted? What was you going to do if I had my gun out and I shot at you? What was going to happen? He said, man, I'm going to do what I had to do. I said, exactly. And what you was going to have to do, I said, before last night, man, I was willing to die for this stuff. I said, but now I'm willing to die for something else. He said, what's that? I said, God. And this dude looked at me and said, man, how can I know God like that? I said, let me tell you about it. So, man, I set this dude down, and for another 20, 30 minutes, man, I sat there and I preached to this dude about God. And this man got up, and we looked each other in the eyes. He said, bro, he said, again, man, I'm sorry. He said, man, you can forgive me, bro. He said, I want to be your right hand man from now on, bro. He said, if you need anything, you got any problem, man, you call me, bro. I said, bet. And, man, we hugged each other. When we hugged each other for the first time ever in my life, I had a man that wasn't in my family tell me he loved me. He said, bro, he said, I don't even know what I'm saying. He said, but, man, I love you, bro. And I'm like, bet, I love you, too. And we hugged, and he left. You know what I'm saying? He walked out, and he told his boy, he said, hey, man, he said, let's go. And dude, his friend was like, man, what's up? He said, man, I'll tell you in the car. You know what I'm saying? So he said, all right. And he picked up the 12 gauge and they just walked out. So I went back in and my boy like, man, what was that all about? I said, all them niggas would come to rob us, but we straight. And I just went back to preaching like nothing had happened. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I didn't just almost lose my life right there. You know what I'm saying? So I preached for another few minutes, and I never forget. It was February 16th, which is today. Actually, February 16th, that's why I'm doing this today. And it was right at 12 o'clock. It was right at 12 o'clock. So I told my boys, hey, I got something I need to do. I said, y'all just chill out for a minute. I'll be right back. So in February 16th, I'll never forget, February 16th, it was 11:59. And right at 12 o'clock, I'll never forget, I got down on my knees at 12 o'clock on the dot. And I told God, because like I said, I had asked God to do all kind of other stuff to show me that it was real. But after that happened and I confronted this dude and he admitted what he was coming to do, I knew without a doubt now that Sunday and that whole weekend had been set up by God and he really had something for me to do. So I got on my knees at February 17th, 2004. That's why I celebrate the 17th, because I found an answer to call. But I got on my knees and I went to God wholeheartedly. And I told God, I said, from this point on, I said, you don't have to prove nothing to me, man. I said, honestly, now I'm looking at it and I'm thinking about it. I'm ashamed that I even asked you to prove yourself to me. I said, so from this moment on, whatever time, I said, I know I made a mess of my life so far. I said, but whatever I got left is yours, man. I said, whatever you want me to go, whatever you want me to do, whatever you want me to say, my life is yours from this point forward. I said, no, so I yield my life to you. And on February 17th at 12 o'clock a.m., I gave my life to God. And that was 17, in 2.5, a little over 2 hours, it'll be 17 years ago when I made that decision. And I've been serving the Lord ever since. So that's what I do. And of course, man, God has done so many wonderful things for me, man. Living in life, I've never imagined, got all the things that I have. I've been able to raise all my beautiful kids, be able to actually be in their lives and be here for them. Whether that's a good thing or not, I don't know. Time has yet to tell. Working a job, you know what I'm saying? Like this week I was supposed to be on vacation, this week, but I couldn't take my vacation because I'm the only person at my job that know how to do my job. You know what I'm saying? That's a blessing. It's a gift and a curse. It's a gift because I ain't got to worry about nobody taking my job, but it's a job, but it's a curse because I got to be there all the time. And that's why I had to cancel my vacation, because we normally, the other chemist that used to work that I took over for, normally he would take over for me and work for me while I'm out, but he couldn't do it this time. So therefore I had to work. So yeah, it was a little disheartening, but I still got a couple hours off today and I'll be off tomorrow, but I got to go back to it Thursday. You know what I'm saying? But still, it's $1 billion corporation. I'm a chemist for $1 billion corporation that got facilities all over the world. I didn't even know that was possible. You know what I'm saying? I never know. 20 years ago, when I was in North Memphis, not 20 years ago, when I was 17, getting ready to leave North Memphis, If somebody told me one day you'll be a chemist for $1 billion corporation that has facilities all over the world and you get to fly over the world to those facilities, I told you out of your freaking mind, man. But yet that's what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? I got little stuff like I got a card that I use just to travel. If I want to travel or need to travel anywhere, I got a credit card I can just use and book my flight in my hotel and my rental car and go wherever they need me to go to. They don't. And to some people, they're like, oh, that's nothing. To me, that's huge. I never imagined being in a position like that. You know what I'm saying? I got a card. If I need to buy anything for my lab, I just go on the line and order it and go. That's the blessing. That's how far. And that's why I wanted to spend a little bit more time in my childhood this time, because that's how far God has brought me. So if you see me now, you're like, oh, this guy's a success, probably been a success for a long time. No, man, I literally came from less than nothing. You know, I literally came from less than nothing to be where I'm at. And it's all because of that decision I made 17 years ago to give my life to God. And that's why I end up in Waverly. So y'all got to be careful when you say, God, you go anywhere, because you'll see into some little small town that got more cows than people. And you don't know what you're going to do with yourself for the first year or two. But the crazy part about it, man, I absolutely love it. I cannot go back to living in the city. Matter of fact, my boy Sean, I was talking to Evan the other day. And every time I would talk to Evan, he always messed me like, John, what do you do out there for fun, man? He said, I can do it. I said, man, I'm telling you, Evan, I love it. I said, I love it. He said, but you like an hour or something away from everything. I said, Evan, I love it. I said, I said, when I come to the city, I'm ready to get back home as soon as possible. And the crazy part is, man, that happened to me 17 years ago, and I've been in this little small town for 7 years. And don't you know, this 7 years that I've been here, I've done more for God in the 7 years since I've been here than I've done the first 10 years. I mean, it ain't even close. You know what I'm saying? It's all because I came to this town. I came to this church, which is River Lake Baptist Church. And you know what I'm saying? The Lord really put me in a position where I can really start my ministry. Because all the other time, I started going to church in Murfreesboro, but it was a huge church. So you really didn't have to do much because there was always a lot of people that can do things. But when I got to this church, I mean, it's about this big. You know, we lucky to have, we usually have 50, 60 people on Sunday morning on a good day. You know, so, and a lot of people are up in years, so they can't do as much as they used to. So it was needed a lot of help. So if I really want to serve God, he put me in a place where somebody that true servant of God can flourish and grow. And I have, and I'm so grateful for that. And so now, over the last 7 years I've been to this church, my ministry, I started this ministry. I've been preaching in the jail for the last 4 or 5 years, even though I haven't been able to go this year because of the coronavirus, which I'm heartbroken over that. But that's what started this. And because I've started this, I've reached out to even more people. I've led almost 400. I think I led right at 400 people to the Lord over the last 7 years since I've been here. Where I started soul winning about 5 years ago, and I've led almost 400 people that I can say through God's grace I was able to lead them to the Jesus, and now they get to go to heaven and have to spend eternity in hell. And God has done so many things. And so many, and I want to, because this already went a little longer, I wanted to get into a little testimonial, because a lot of people always ask me, well, how you know that you're doing the right thing, you went to the right place? And it's because God has did several things for me. But I don't want to belabor this video any longer. But I will end by saying this. So another question I get, I will answer that question. People always ask me, like, how, I remember this one truck driver guy asked me, like, man, how do you go from living the life you were living, having all the girls you wanted, all the drugs you wanted, partying all the time, to just giving all that up and giving it all to God? You know what I'm saying? He said, how could you make that decision? I said, it was two things that helped me make that decision. And the reason why, he asked me, how can you make that decision and be faithful to it? You know what I'm saying? Because since I've been on that path, I've stayed on that path, and I've done nothing but grow in that path. I still got a long way to go. Trust me, I got a long way to go before I really get to the perfection that God wants out of us. But I'm working toward it. You know what I'm saying? Every day I get up working toward it. He said, but how do you make that? He said, what was so strong about that experience that helped make a decision? I said, it's two things really that it boiled down to. I said, first of all, the first and the main thing, I said, that night when I felt that chill all over my body, when I felt that presence, because the Bible says, wherever two or more gathered in my name, I'm there in your presence. And that night it was me and the Holy Spirit, so God was there in our presence. So that night I knew without a doubt, 200%, I knew that God was real. And I knew that if God was real, then heaven was real. And that's where I want to be at. But I also knew that if God is real and heaven is real, then guess what? The devil and hell is real. And there's a lot of people on their way there. And there's a lot of people, God needs people like me that get out there and do our work to prevent that from happening. So that's what helped me make that decision. Because that day, without a doubt, I always had doubt in my mind. I'm hoping if y'all watching this, y'all have doubt. I'm here to let you know right now, God is real. You know what I'm saying? And there's going to come a day where you're going to have to stand before him and be judged by the things that you've done with your life. And if you ain't got nothing that you've done for him, or if you ain't called him in your life as your savior, then there's going to literally be hell to pay. You know what I'm saying? I will let you know that. Don't let these people fool you. Oh, the Bible is just some book written by men and all that. Yeah, man may have had something to do with it, but it was inspired by God. You know, so just like that song I wrote, God's Will, it was inspired by God. That didn't come from me. I had no way of thinking like that at that time, but God dictated that through me, through his spirit. So that was one. And the second thing is that let me know that was real, and the reason why I'm so dedicated to it, and that's the reason why I'm going full strength in it. Because that night, when I felt them chills, again, the spirit told me that was the presence of God. And guess what? Every single time, even since I've been telling this story here tonight, every single time I'm sharing my testimony, or every single time I'm sharing the gospel with somebody, or I'm having a conversation with somebody about God, every single time I get chills all over them same chills. I get those same chills all over my body. And it only happens when I'm talking about God. And why? Because wherever there's two or more gathered in my name, I'm there in their presence. The only time I get this, it's been 17 years, and I wish my phone had better details I can show y'all. My hairs are standing. I'm in a room, and it's closed off, and it's hot in here right now. You probably see my sweat stain, and I hope that ain't disgusting, y'all. But that's how hot it is. But yet right now, I got chills all over my body because I've been sharing the story with y'all. And it happens every single time, and it only happens when I'm thinking about God or I'm talking about God. Any other time, it don't happen. Or if I see something that's been God inspired, like every once in a while I hear a really good song, that's a really deep song that you know God has something to do with it, I get those same chills. But it only happens when I'm dealing with things of God. And that's why that's the gift that the Lord gave me that night, because he said, wherever there's two or more gathered in my name, I'm there in the presence. I can feel God's presence on me and on my life, and I can see it. You know what I'm saying? Again, I've never seen a light. I've never seen an angel. I've never heard an audible voice, but I do have my spirit, but I have an inner dialogue where I'm getting ready to do something or say something, and something in me just takes over. You know what I'm saying? I know it's when my spirit take over. I'm not on them creepy dudes and you know, them people that get kind of weird with it. I don't get weird with it. But I do have, and I realize we call it our conscience, but I do know that sometimes my spirit speak to me and sometimes my spirit speak through me. And that's why I'm able to do the things I do. Because sometimes when these lessons I do on Facebook, sometimes I get ready to go through the lesson, when I put it together, I'm like, man, it's not much here, but I'll just see what happens. And man, I get into the lesson, it ended up being a great lesson. And the reason why, because I felt my spirit take over, felt spirit take over, and it wasn't me that was talking, it was their spirit talking through me. And that happened, that started 17 years ago. And like I said, for 17 years, anytime I'm talking to somebody about God, I know I've had a spiritual connection with somebody, I get those same chills on my body because God gave me that gift. He gave me the ability to feel his presence. So again, y'all, I hope y'all enjoyed that. That was my testimony. I wanted to be a little shorter, but I wanted to make sure that you people understood why I do what I do. This is not something I was just taught to do. This is not something I was just told you should do it because it's good to do it. This is something that I was personally called out by God to do. And he showed me, because I always wondered, why am I so friendly? Why is it so easy? Why is it so easy for me to make friends with people? You know what I'm saying? Like, why are people so attached to me when I make friends with, like Sean, this is just my mechanic. And man, Sean, how long we know each other for? Probably like 20 years, bro. If I'm not mistaken, it's been close to 20 years that we've known each other. I mean, definitely since my whole college career, which was back in 2000. So, I mean, it's close to 20 years that me and this dude been knowing. He was just my mechanic. But it's just, I have those relationships with people because that's of God. Because my preachers say all the time, God's business is the people business. And you got to be able to be able to relate to people. You got to be able to, yeah, that's what I thought about 20 years, bro. You got to be able to relate to people and be able to draw people in so you can bring them to God. And that's what he showed me. That's why I'm not telling. That's why I got the gift of gab. That's why I'm able to talk to him. But you know what I'm saying? Because it's of God. And he showed me that. And that's what I want y'all to know, man. If y'all take anything from my story, I want y'all to know that God is real, man. And there's going to be a day when you hear that trumpet sound. And it's just, all this is going to be over. I know it's looking like the world is falling down around us right now, but I'm telling y'all, God is real and he's on the throne, and nothing is going on that he's not aware of. So if you're living this life, man, and you haven't made a decision, give your heart and soul to Jesus Christ. If you haven't, first of all, you haven't been saved and asked Jesus Christ to come in your life, I'm going to tell you, you need to do that as soon as possible. Reach out to me. You know what I'm saying? Let me know, message me, whatever, so we can take care of that, because that's the most important part. And another part is once you make that decision to accept Jesus Christ as your Savior, it's just as equally as important as start working on building your relationship with Him, walking in His ways and doing the work. Because God didn't just save us. That's what He's showing me. He didn't just save me just for me to get saved and I can sit around on my blessed assurance and do what I want to and just wait for my day to go to heaven. No, He saved me for a reason. Everybody that He saved, if you ever had a interaction with a servant of God and you heard the gospel and got saved, it was for a reason. There is some work for you to do, and by you not doing that work, there's a lot of people right now in this world that's missing out, and that's what's going on in this world. It's not that we got so many bad people doing bad. We ain't got enough good people doing good, or more importantly, we ain't got enough Christian people out here going and giving the word of God like they supposed to be doing. So again, that's my testimony. I'm going to end it right there because I will keep going on if y'all let me. I thank y'all so much for joining me tonight. Sean, I don't know if I ever told the whole story to you, and I think you missed a little part, so go back and watch the front and just talk about my childhood. And Sister Rhonda, you are a soldier, man. Thank you for being so faithful to me and let me run my mouth, and you always just bear with it. It's definitely a blessing, and it encouraged me to keep going. So I thank y'all. Of course, my ending announcements as always. If there's anything in particular, now next week, this Sunday, if y'all are in the Waverly area, I'm going to be preaching a sermon this Sunday, always at the end of my week. My spiritual week is what I like to call it, my spiritual birthday. At the end of that week, I always preach a sermon, and the sermon I'm going to preach this Sunday night at 6:30 at Waverly, Tennessee at River Lake Baptist Church is called "What Shall the Righteous Do?" I mean, look at all that's going on around this country right now, and it's really easy to just give up and get away from the ministry and get out of doing the things of God and just go with the flow. But what shall the righteous do? I'm doing a lesson Sunday night, and then I will do that same lesson Monday night for Facebook Live. So next Monday at 7, that's the lesson. If you can't make it to church Sunday night, you'll be able to see it Monday night at 7 o'clock because there's going to be the lesson. And then the week after that, I will be doing the salvation message. Like I said, these are some I do once a year just for the people that have come in over the years that maybe haven't heard it before. So tonight's my testimony. Next Monday at 7, God willing, I'm still here. I do my sermon, What Shall the Righteous Do? And the Monday after that, I'll be doing a lesson on salvation by grace through faith in Jesus Christ. And then, but after that, if y'all got anything else y'all want me to talk about or anything I haven't addressed, please reach out to me and let me know, inbox me, and I can go through that and I can work that into my lesson plan. Keep sharing the video, especially with this. I know this is a long one. It's almost 3 hours, and I apologize about that, but I can't cut my story short. I really want people to understand why I do what I do. So y'all keep sharing it, telling people about it. If there's anybody you think can benefit from this story, maybe going through some people you know going through the same thing, tell them, hey, man, look, hey, this guy been there, done that. Look what he got to. You know, share this with them and let them know so this ministry can continue to grow. Because like I said, the Lord's put me through all this so I can gather His lost sheep. But I can't do it on my own. I need y'all help. So continue to share the videos. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, if you're not 100% sure about your salvation, please, 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 you don't have to walk around this world not knowing for sure you're going to go to heaven or not. If you're not sure about your salvation, please, please, please reach out to me and let me know, and I'll do everything I can to get in touch with you or set up a time so we can go over the gospel and you can ask the Lord and Jesus Christ to be your Savior, because it's the most important decision that you will ever make. And of course, reach out to me if you got anybody, know anybody, or you have yourself need some spiritual counseling. Try to figure out what direction God wants for your life, what you can do to get a closer relationship with God, anything of God. Reach out to me. I'm not the expert on it. I'm not a theologian, but I do my best according to the experience and the wisdom that God has given me to guide you in the right direction. And also, last but not least, this is my YouTube page. Sister Rhonda, you asked what happened to my song. It's on my YouTube page. If you go to my YouTube page, you have to go all the way down to the bottom. It's one of the first videos that I put on there. But Miss Rhonda, I got to let you know, I wrote this song the day before I gave my life to God. So I was in a bad place, and it is some graphic language in it. But God told me to record it, and the way He gave it to me is the way it was meant to be recorded. So if you're going to go to my YouTube page, it is on there. The song is called God's Will. It's not a video, but it is the song. I actually recorded the song, and it is on my YouTube page. And you get to my YouTube page by going here. It's God's. Go to YouTube, put in God's Servant / Lost Sheep Ministry. Make sure there's a space between each one, and it'll give you all my sermons. Just about all my sermons that I have is on there, and also that song is on there as well. But like I said, said, this is at the very bottom. So I think you got to go, if you know how to navigate video, YouTube, you know, you got to hit like all videos or something like that. Scroll all the way down to the bottom and you'll see my song is recorded. I recorded it almost 17 years ago, actually. I recorded this song and it is on there. And that song, me writing that song is what changed my life. And if you want to hear it, you can go there. But again, explicit lyrics. I wrote it before I gave my life to God. But God, that's how God told me to record it and write it, and that's what I did. So thank y'all, man, again, for joining me. I hope first of all, I hope you enjoyed it because it's a very, very long video. But more importantly, I hope it inspires you to have a close relationship with God. I hope it plants a seed in your heart. If you got any doubt right now is whether God is real or not, I hope it let you know that God is real and he has a work for you to do. I don't care how bad you are. I don't care how far away from God you are. You know, my pastor always say God can take a crooked stick and draw a straight line. You'll never, that's something I come across all the time, especially in the jail. I've done too much, or I'm such a terrible person that I don't think I deserve forgiveness, or God won't forgive me. He wants to forgive you, and he's waiting on you to forgive him, but you got to forgive you, but you got to come to him. He's not going to come to you. I got lucky. You know, so I was blessed that he came to me, and I guess he saw the work that I can do and the potential, so maybe he made a special case for me. I don't know. No, but I do thank him for giving me another chance, because I wouldn't be here right now had I not accepted his offer to do his work, and I'm glad I did, because it's been the best 17 years of my life. So I thank y'all for joining me. I'm going to go ahead and pray, and I'm going to end this. Dear Lord, Heavenly Father, thank you so much for watching over me. Thank you so much for the faithful ones that was here tonight to hear my story, Lord. I thank you for their story. A lot of people, when everything is good, they always praise you and thank you for it. But I thank you for all of it, Lord. That's why my life verse is Romans 8:28. For we know that all things work together for good to them that love the Lord and to them who are the called according to his purpose. See, it was all those things that I went through, all these things that I just talked about, what made me the man I am today. And if I taken away, if I had I taken away the molestation, if it wasn't there, I wouldn't be sitting here preaching today. I wouldn't have 400 souls that I led to you today. So I just thank you for all you put me through. I thank you for all that you brought me through, Lord. And I thank you for keeping your hand upon my life and giving me the opportunity to serve your purpose and your will. Even though I was so far away from you, even though I was the wretched man that I was, you still saw fit to use me. You still saw the potential, and you knew what I can do for the world once I gave my heart to you, and you gave me another opportunity. So I thank you so much, Lord. I thank you for these 17 years in service to you. About 2 hours away from my big celebration. So I'm about to head down to the church and get down to the altar, because I always like to start that day at 12 o'clock. I always like to start off in prayer to you. And I'll be talking to you again here in a little bit. But I just thank you so much for this night. Thank you for your blessing. Thank you for the testimony that you gave me, Lord. Thank you for, like, again, everything you put me through and everything you brought me through. And I thank you for making me the man I am. But more importantly, I thank you for giving me the wisdom to accept your call when you call me, Lord, to serve your purpose and your will in my life. So I just ask you to watch over me tonight as I finish up this night, Lord, and get ready to celebrate 17 years of serving you. I pray you be with all your servants. Give me your power, love, and wisdom of any problem that may arise that may keep them from doing your work, Lord. And I pray that they will have the same enthusiasm that I have for doing the work that you have us do. Help them see how important it is that we can take your word out to a lost and dying world, Lord. I pray that you just keep us all safe, especially with all these ice storms and everything that's been going on, Lord. I know a lot of people are panicking right now. A lot of people are stuck in bad situations. Just keep your hand upon them all, especially with the corona and all this that's going on. Help them know that you're still on the throne, Lord. And help them, don't let them be like me, Lord. Don't let them wait till they get to the last minute and come to you, Lord. Let them know that you're there waiting. You're waiting to bless them. You're waiting to work in their life. You're waiting to come into their life, but they got to ask you. You say, I stand at the door and knock. When in Revelation, you say, behold, I stand at the door and knock. You're not going to force your way in, but you would gladly come in once we're asked. And I thank you for coming into my life. I thank you for this wonderful testimony. I thank you for my salvation. I thank you for Jesus Christ and the sacrifice he made, that he loved me so much that he would make that sacrifice for a wretch like me. And I thank you for giving me the opportunity to show him that I was worth the sacrifice. So I pray you keep us all safe, Lord, as we go about this night. Again, be with your servants. Anybody that's lost, anybody that's watching this video, Lord, that don't know your Savior, please touch their heart. Let a seed be planted so they may have the want to trust you as Savior, Lord, and make that decision to come and trust you as Savior before it's too late, because it's the most important decision they will ever make in their life. I pray you continue to use this testimony and use this story in this video, Lord, that go around the world for all those that's going through the same thing, all those that's going through the same struggle. All those that right now maybe feel like they're cursed because it just seems like their world is coming down around them. Help them know that you're not doing those things to pick on them. You're not doing those things so they be cursed, but those things are happening to them because they haven't accepted you into their lives and wholeheartedly came under you so they can be under your grace as you have done for me, Lord. So I just thank you so much. Actually, watch over us all. Keep us safe. Again, be with all those, your servants. Be with all those in the military, keep them safe, and just be with all your faithful servants and saints out of the church as we work to build your kingdom, actively build your kingdom, and serve your purpose and your will with our lives. I thank you so much. I pray you continue to guide me in the right direction. And I thank you for these 17 years. And I pray that we have another 17 years or another 34 years. Or I pray that I continue to have the same enthusiasm and love for you and want to do your work until the day I take my last breath. Continue to keep your hand upon me and use me in a mighty way to guide these other lost sheep back to you. We love you and thank you for all you've done and given. And I say this prayer in your wonderful son, Jesus' name. Amen. All right, man. Thank y'all. Y'all are some soldiers, true soldiers, man. It's been 3 hours, Sister Rhonda. You gonna be up? I know you put up past your bedtime. Brother Mike probably wondering where you at, but I thank y'all for listening. And again, that was from my heart. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, you go to YouTube, you want to hear the song that started all this 17 years ago. It's on my YouTube page. And I appreciate y'all's support. Continue to share the videos. But again, continue to help me do what I can to bring in God's lost sheep. Because there's a lot of people out there. And I appreciate y'all for being here with me. So I love y'all. Be safe. You know what I'm saying? Continue to support whenever you get a chance. More importantly, just continue to be safe. And remember, like my grandma used to always tell me, and that's why I say this at the end of my videos, I always watch your back and pray. I love y'all. Hopefully I'll see y'all either at church Sunday night at 6:30 at River Lake Baptist Church or Monday back here at 7 o'clock to hear the message of what shall the righteous do. But until then, again, be safe, watch your back and pray. I love you all. Peace.